Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony, Chair of the Committee on Finance. I have a to order a regular meeting on Tuesday, May 14th at 5:35 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Here.
Councilor Enderle,
Here.
Councilwoman Gray, here, Councilor Sanchez,
Here.
Five present, no absent, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to thank Betty Shaw, here from the City Solicitor's Office, and Madam Auditor, Gina Costa is with us this evening. We have Councilors Peterson, Espinal, and Vargas joining us this evening. Thank you so much for coming. Who have I forgotten? And of course, we have all our distinguished guests. So with that, I would like to ask Madam Clerk to read agenda item number 1.
Item 1, an ordinance relating to Article 4, Chapter 17, Section 17-192 Act of the Code of Ordinances, Disability Waiver Request, Joseph Gianfrancesco.
Okay. And because we haven't been able to get this gentleman in, I am going to ask for a motion that this continued indefinitely.
So.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Anderbaugh, all in favor? Aye. All opposed. Next, for items 2 through 5, which is our budget, I would like a motion to waive the readings of item 2 through 5.
So.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Anderbaugh, all in favor? All opposed. Okay. With that, I think we are going to, just so I can announce to everyone, we're going to do HEMA first, separate communications second. I guess public safety third, police fourth, and fire fifth. So sorry, I hope that works for all of you, and I will get it done as quickly as possible. So with that, HEMA.
Madam Chair, you want to have us swearing against various departments individually as they are called.
I would love, would you like to handle it? Yeah.
It doesn't
Why
matter.
don't we do each department, we'll swear you in and we'll swear FEMA in. We just got too many people. Okay.
Can you raise your right hand? You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state the names and titles for the record.
Lawrence Mansfield, Chief Financial Officer.
And Sarah drafted. Okay, and may I please have a motion to mark our FEMA exhibit as section 13.
Second.
Great. Motion made by Councilor Anderbaugh, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor? All opposed? Yes, please.
Once again, thank you for the opportunity to present before the committee, and this evening we'll continue with the format that has been accepted by the committee. The breakfast will vary, read it to the record, the summary of each department, and we'll permit the questions, and with that, we'll then do it to the bottom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beginning with Emergency Management Agency. Revenue fiscal 25 is budgeted at 237,500. This is an increase of 5,000 over the 24 budget, and the increase is due to a new revenue source for CPR certification training that will be offered to external organizations. Moving on to expenditures, total salaries for fiscal 25 is proposed at $428,518, an increase of $33,089 over the 24 budget, and the department has rejected the following organizational changes. Defund the preparedness coordinator at a savings of $68,972 and fund instead a senior preparedness coordinator of $73,064 for a net change of $4,092. Total benefit budget for fiscal 25 are $206,668, an increase of $6,100. Total services proposed in fiscal 25 is $5,050, an increase of $1,000 over the 24 budget, and that is primarily due to food costs associated with EAB activations. Supplies in fiscal 25 are budgeted at $135,367. This is a decrease of $26,589 from the 24 budget. And that's due to a reduction in miscellaneous expenses. And that reduction's been offset by an increase associated with disaster warehouse supplies and maintenance and service. And with that, I'll turn it over to Director Sardo.
Director, thank you so much for coming. It's been a while since I've seen you, so thank you so much. I know you've been doing a great job for the city, and I'm gonna listen to your presentation. If you have one.
Yeah, just a few quick statements.
Okay.
So thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing. Things have been a little bit busy on the emergency management front this year. In the last fiscal year, we saw record-breaking flooding, a number of EOC, emergency operations center activations. Along with that, we currently have 5 federal disaster declarations open at the same time, which is the record number for Providence. We have 3 active federal disasters for flooding currently open, as well as COVID and Blizzard Keenan. I know that was a long time ago, but that disaster is still active for recovery. So we've been very busy on all fronts, both response and recovery, and we've been doing a lot of work with public outreach and education. Our training and exercises have really picked up in the last year, and we've been doing record numbers of exercise training both within the city and with external partners within the city and across the region. So we're really excited to answer any questions you might have, and I appreciate all your support and collaborations there.
Thank you so much. And I was just. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the new position and the one you were funded?
Yeah, absolutely. So we currently have 2 preparedness coordinators that are staffed and budgeted in our budget, but due to the demands that we have and the allocation of resources within staffing, we are proposing to defund one of the preparedness coordinators and instead fund a senior preparedness coordinator. And the major difference is that the senior preparedness coordinator would be the lead for our training and exercise coordination, as well as have a more senior supervisory role with the other preparedness coordinator and our interns in the office. So based on the amount of responsibility and expertise required in that position, we're proposing a higher compensation commensurate with it.
So can I just ask on your organizational chart? So these are all for the regional coordinator, the senior preparedness and preparedness coordinator, those are the 3 positions right there.
Correct. And one quick note, the regional coordinator position, that is fully grant funded for a 2-year term. So that is, you're going to be entering our 2nd year of that. That position is funded through a regional coordination grant, a collaboration grant with the city of Boston. So her salary and benefits are entirely covered by the grant.
Any
We
other,
have 1 more year of that grant.
okay. All right, and then you have your administrative assistant, Monica.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna open it up for questions, Anita? Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Director. My first question, talking about the regional coordinators, that position you're gonna look to get funded through the city in the future, or is grant opportunity gonna present itself?
So
Possibly.
right now, we will be reapplying with the city of Boston for an extension on that regional catastrophic preparedness grant. It's a grant through FEMA and you are eligible to reapply and extend it. Boston has had this grant funded and re-extended previously for some of their work. So towards the end of next year, we'll be eligible to reapply to extend that grant.
Awesome.
I think we'll have a very competitive application as well, given the work that they've already done.
That's great. My next question, can you just explain a little bit what the food line item is in your budget?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we activate the Emergency Operations Center, the folks who respond to staff the positions in the Emergency Operations Center, they're called the Emergency Response Team. They're expected to be there for either 12 to 24 hours or the duration of the response. And we have to provide food, obviously, for folks who have to stay there for the duration of the incident. So we request to fund it at the $5,000 line item. We don't always use all of that, depending on the year and how many ESC activations we have. Sometimes we use them and sometimes we don't. But I can note, for the record that we've already had 6 EOC activations for this year. Last year by this date, we'd only had 3. So it's been a busy year already.
What's the acronym that you're using?
Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, upstairs where all the computers are.
And what, I guess, what's the determination for an activation of that?
It depends on how many people we need to call in. So depending on the type of incident and the duration, I call in the minimum number required because I don't want to be wasting anyone's time. So for a major blizzard, we would potentially need 10 to 12 to 16 people. What we do more typically is a level 2 activation, which is FEMA, DPW, public property, MCCS, fire and police. So on an average level 2 activation, we'll have between 6 and 8 people there for 12 to 36 hours. It's pretty standard.
Cool. Last question, really, because I really do appreciate all the work that your department does, and Claire, I think you're a strong leader in the city. You really have a compassionate approach to work that you do. So that really leads into my next question. I know we've had conversations in the past, regarding, potential, emergencies, around, certain buses coming into the city. I know you've been doing work for almost 2 years, I think, in that field. Are there any positive developments at the state level when it comes to that type of work?
Yeah, actually, I just came this morning, there was a state tabletop exercise regarding that plan. So the state is nearing the end of their planning process. And they've had a lot of engagement from a lot of stakeholders across the state in the planning process. So I was actually just down in World for that this morning.
So you feel pretty hopeful?
It's never my job to be hopeful, but I do think that they're doing a lot of the major steps to be better prepared and have a good handle on what would need to be activated in the event we did see an incident of that nature.
Thank you.
Sorry, my job doesn't come with optimism.
Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just really have one question. So first, thank you for everything, Director, and I know you deputy director is here too. You guys do just a stunning amount of work, and I guess my main question is like, in just looking at like your FTE number and your total budget, and maybe it's just the comparison with the other budgets we're seeing tonight, how is it possible that you're doing the quantity of work you're doing with only 5 people? And if you had like your druggers, how many people would you want to have? If you can answer that on the record.
Well, I think we have a really awesome team. We have an amazing team of people who are really dedicated. So I think that's how we get everything done is we're very efficient and we try to prioritize well. And also we have a great team at FEMA right now. I'm really proud of the work we've been able to do. Having the extra grant funded position has been fantastic. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to continue that for another 2-year extension on that. And it's been very helpful.
Yes, Councilor Vargas.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. The question that I have for you is, what do you have for prevention, like, what we doing to prevent what's going on in the last 6 months? Like, Valley Street always gets flooded, and when I go down there, I see the truck park and the mobile gas station, but nobody out of the truck is watching what's going on. But what we can do to prevent these floods for the next season? Do you have any plans for that one in the future, or yes, we're going to be doing the same thing, just go there and see, oh, it's flooded, nice, but what else we can do?
Thank you, Councilman. So one of the major, obviously, this is a point of major concern for us. We've had record-breaking flooding for the last 2 years now. We are actually in the final stages of our hazard mitigation plan update. We'll have a draft that's ready for public comment and for the council's input by the end of June. And that plan is going to help outline some of the mitigation actions that we're proposing. And with that plan, it will also allow us to be eligible for FEMA mitigation dollars. Due to the recent flooding declarations, we actually are going to have $3.5 million of mitigation funding that is going to become available as a result of the federal declarations for our recent flooding. So obviously, there's a lot of city departments that are involved in flooding response and mitigation. Parks, DPW, they do an amazing job. So it's a whole of city response. So our major piece of that is getting the hazard mitigation plan finalized and pushed out. We really look forward to all of your input because your voices are really important and getting that input on the plan is going to be critical. And from there, we're going to use the mitigation actions proposed in the plan to try and get some of that $3.5 million. And then there's also federal funding and building resilient infrastructure and communities grant through FEMA that's designed for helping flood mitigation and among many other mitigation actions. And we'll be looking to put in some projects for that as well. Thank you, Council.
Okay, Madam Auditor. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask?
No, but I do have a comment overall. Despite all the good work that you do, I do apologize. My job is probably worse than yours. I'm the one with all the bad news. This department is violating, the ordinance. I don't know, no department should ever be paying two directors. It violates the classification ordinance and eventually will probably violate the appropriations ordinance. The reason you have a deputy is because they act as the director in your absence. So how HR does not stop that, I don't know. That has been the practice of the city for as long as I've been here.
Madam Auditor, is that because she was on maternity leave for 4 months and the deputy was acting director while she was away?
The deputy acts in the director's absence. That's their job. That's why we hire deputies. To save money, we are a municipality. As long as she's being paid, no one else can be paid. They can, if she's out and not being paid, they move her off the payroll and then someone can act. But as long as someone's being paid, you can't pay two people the same salary. So I don't know where we move from here, but that should never happen.
Do you have a response?
I will say that FMLA leave and leaves in general are managed by the Department of Human Resources. So I don't know that Director DeServo is really able to respond to that question. What I will say is, while the internal auditor is correct, there are a handful of people that I can recall in my tenure with the city that have been paid in an active capacity while the director was on some sort of paid leave. Administratively, it is hard to track. For example, if you are going to be out on parental leave and you have 3 months you're entitled to, it seems a little odd to pay someone for the 3rd month because that person's not being paid. I understand the internal auditor's perspective and respect that. However, we do have past precedent that has basically confirmed that what happened in Director DeServo's absence is common practice, or that has at least happened prior.
Would it be possible to have just a more formal response to that? And if you wouldn't mind sending it to the auditor and she will distribute it to the finance committee? If Madam Auditor.
I really think that that's, the HR director should be brought up to speed. If it did happen in the past, I think that this council should make a decision whether or not they want to enforce it and correct it going forward, rather than accept the errors that have happened. You don't have to accept it. If it's been wrong, it's costly. It's a $30,000 difference, not, for the time being. I'm not saying people do not deserve the work, but you accept the job. Those are your job description.
Clarity question, Chairman?
Yes,
Chairman?
yes, Counselor Sanchez.
So, I guess this is for the auditor. So the the acting director has been paid that salary for, there's no cliff on that.
I don't know. I'd have to go through with my payroll to see exactly how long, but this was just run as of May 10th. So I don't know how long that person has been being paid that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would be super supportive of making sure that we don't continue a practice that maybe isn't the best.
Well, also, yes. Steve.
No, she's complete.
No, I would
So,
also,
Madam Chair, if I may accept the responsibility of that response from Deputy Finance Director, but in the view that FMLA is not solid, it is being drawn against the individuals who accrued and earned sick time and vacation time if necessary. And that this is not stepping in the shoes of a director for her absence for the week if she got vacation. This was a planned time matter, and I think in light of the fact that this agency, small as it already is, critical to the needs of the city, I thought, in my humble opinion, I thought it was a fair decision to have this person compensated as the acting director. Because I don't think their salary was assigned to anybody junior in the command as a deputy or acting deputy, which is not permissible.
Chief, I'm sorry, can you say not salary, it's accrued against what?
Well, when you take when you
Yes.
take family leave,
Yeah,
as required by law, you're permitted up to 26 weeks of, 26 weeks of, I'm sorry, 13 weeks of leave, but that leave is taken if you have the approved bank of vacation or sick leave first and then maybe vacation. If you have no such leave approved, you cannot be compensated.
okay. All right, thank you. Yes, Madam Clerk, I make Madam Auditor go right ahead.
In order to not pick and choose, I think we should just follow the ordinance.
Okay. all
This
right,
way,
well,
it's not personal, and I am not personal. I think you do a great job. Your deputy does a great job. It's not personal.
okay,
this-
we just need
That
to-
just removes that from the whole equation.
Okay. I think we need to address that, and we will, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and we'll do some follow-up on that.
Can I go in
Yes,
one other
Madam
direction? This would be to finance. In your personnel supplements, is there any way to be consistent to know that there are 6 positions in there and 1 is grant funded? Because to me, it looks like you're over here, because it doesn't say there's 1, there should be 6 funded, and just put the balance in, you know how like they do it in planning, is that
But
not?
technically, it's not funded. Like if there are, if, like, for example, per regional coordinator position, we are not funding any of that salary, so it is allowed. But I don't know that we should be listing it as funded if it's not actually funded.
So where is the grant? Is it in there? Is it in in one of these grants in their revenues? So it's not.
No,
civil
it
defense.
just reduces their expenditures. So when the grant funding arrives, there will be a payroll report that the controller will apply and they'll reduce expenditures for the salaries.
It's
It won't be
directly
reflected.
into the salaries, right into the line item.
Yeah,
So it nets out.
Yeah.
Okay,
You think that's Madam Auditor?
thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so then, without any other questions, we can move on. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your service to the city, with your small staff, and, congratulations. Thank you very much. You have your baby, so congratulations. Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we are going to move on to, what did I say? Telecom.
Yeah.
Telecom. Okay, we will swear you in. Raise your right hand. Please be on the kind of president. You're about to do this. You could take your name to the left.
David Leoncio, Director of Telecommunications.
Yes, we are going to mark the telecommunications as 14. I have a motion.
Second.
Made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, thank you so much, Director. So we're going to start with finance.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have the communications department. Revenue is budgeted at $750,000 for fiscal 25, an increase of $120,000 from the 24 budget. And then this increase is due to increased fire box revenue as supported by trends. Total salaries for fiscal 25 is proposed at $5,574,627, an increase of $188,379. And the department has proposed the following organizational change. They'd like to fund the quality control specialist at a cost of $69,007. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are $4,001,277, an increase of $162,738. Moving on to services, total proposed budgeted services for fiscal 25 is $363,624, consistent with the 24 budget. Total proposed budget for supplies in fiscal 25 is $1,635,342, an increase of $135,986 over the 24 budget. And this increase is primarily due to additional costs associated with radio maintenance and telephone. There's no capital budget in this department. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the director.
Thank you so much. Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'd first like to start, thanking, the group that is here this evening for allowing us to have 2 new positions, which you approved for us last year for control center operators. And that was great for us because we were able to start to cut our overtime costs. We weren't able to fully, recognize the full cost because it didn't happen until the pilot program was completed. So once it was completed, we were able to start to see some of the benefits of that. So for that, and for the mental health of our staff, we thank you for that. And I just would like to thank finance team for all of their help with us this year. We desperately needed some equipment and they were able to step in and help us with that, which we were able to acquire a new cable trailer, which we've been trying to get for years. This one was carried in the horse and buggy days, so our new one is much appreciated, and our 2 new four-wheel drive vehicles that added to our fleet that we have no four-wheel drive vehicles, so we have 2 now. So I would like to thank them for that. I think this year we've worked very closely with police, fire, FEMA, and the commissioner's office, working on our call taking, working on the ability to work together through problems that we find through police, fire, FEMA and ourselves. And we have been able to have a great team with the mayor leading us together and having regular meetings, monthly meetings. And we have really noticed the benefit of that. Also, our new position that we are looking to get would be a benefit to a lot of our new call takers. Our call takers are entry-level position jobs, and they come in basically with no training. We train them with our in-house trainers that we have. This position would be a benefit when they come in the door, and once they come in and they start doing the job, along the way, it would be a benefit also for them. So those are my opening remarks. I welcome any questions you may.
I just asked one quick question.
Sure.
For the quality control specialist.
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what they're going to do? And I'm looking at your org chart and who they're reporting to.
So they will be reporting to the deputy director and the director. They will be reporting to both of us. They will also be working with the administrative crew chief. Because the administrative crew chief oversees the call takers, so they will be also, she will also be working with that person.
And what will your quality control specialist be doing specifically?
So it will be a variety of things. It will be first and foremost reviewing calls, which we get multiple requests, after requests from multiple agencies, the Attorney General's office, the water departments, police department, other outside agencies. And it is very difficult for our deputy director to take all of those requests and get them in a timely manner. We used to have a police officer in-house that used to take care of that role. And we no longer have a police officer in-house that does that. So our office has taken over that. And last year, we were fortunate enough to get the administrative crew chief's position, who has helped with that also, a raise. And with that helped a little bit. It took a little bit, but we have so many requests. We think that one position will definitely be a benefit to oversee closely our call takers.
Okay, great. Yes, Councilor Taylor, I think you had your hand.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna just follow up on that. I know policemen used to be there. Why did the police, I know Steve Shea retired, but why didn't we pull the policemen back in?
I think at the time, Councilman, that it was just a bodies, it was just not having enough bodies and needing bodies on the street more than inside with us.
Because I know when, I'm gonna throw Para, the director, under the bus, but when he was here, he was advocating for it because he said that there's several complaints that they get through Para on the police side. My concern is, without a sworn officer, I don't see how if you hire a quality assurance person, how that person is gonna be able to do a better job than the administrative assistant crew chief or someone who's been there for a lot longer.
Well, one of the key things with the administrative crew chief is a union position. This would be a non-union position. It's very difficult for union brothers and sisters to discipline each other. So if it comes to a disciplinary example of a call, it would be impossible for Lori, for example, who's our administrative crew chief, to hand out any discipline.
I understand that, but I guess my question is, say Lori wants it, say she wants that, but they're not gonna take it, there's less money. But say someone who has less time than Lori does, which I know does quite a few years. And we hire that person, I don't see how a person of, and I'm using Lori and Sue, they've been there the longest as far as in communications. So they're very knowledgeable on call taking and they've been through everything. I don't see how when we hire someone, they're gonna have less experience than what they have.
Well, hopefully the person we bring in is an experienced person, an experienced quality control person. If we have the ability to give that to just Sue or Lori and do that, I would be more than comfortable doing that. Unfortunately, they just don't have the time in the course of the day to add that to their.
I mean, me personally, was there for several years. I would
Yes.
like to see a policeman go back there because on the other side, you have firemen there. You have a fire captain and no, they're not. fire lieutenants.
A dispatcher in
But-
charge.
Right, so, and they're fire related, so they know what to do on the calls. I don't think unless we hire a police officer on the police side, that things would get any better. That's just my take on that.
And I don't have the ability to bring a police officer back. That's,
I mean, if it was a retired police officer that did,
well,
you know, for that.
and that would be ideal for us if a retired police officer applied for this job. I mean, that would be ideal for us.
That's just my thought on that. And also, are they still, because I know you can be, mopping floors today and answering calls tomorrow on the police side. Do they go through APCO training?
They
Still?
do. They go through APCO training. Any in-house training we do are APCO trained supervisors that train our new people coming in, but everybody gets APCO training.
And it's
Yes.
still update as they move up and whatever.
Correct. Yes.
And also, hold on. I'm gonna ask this, I know it's a joke, but Annie now is nothing, right?
Well,
For 20 years later.
I've talked with Director Martins at 911 and Jim Shalell. We've been in conversations. The state unfortunately hasn't come up with something that is worthy what us to have in our building. They have the new My telephones.
I'm telling you the same thing, and I know what you're mean, it doesn't make sense, so basically, Annie and Ally,
Yes.
when someone calls the fire or police, it goes to 911. In Lincoln and State Police Barracks. So say it's a shooting, someone say, oh, no, person got shot, right? Hold on, police, they send it over, police and fire, right? Now the dispatch is there, or the call takers answer, and then they say, Providence Fire Department, there's a shooting, where is it? We just have any information. So Westerly there's several police and fire, Westerly, East Providence, Cranston, a lot of places have it. I don't understand why, probably, they hit the button, so it comes up.
Yeah.
325 Washington Street, you know where the call is, you can't mess things up, where there's a lot of streets that sound the same in the city, boroughs, barrows. There's more of an error on the dispatchers or the call takers
Yeah.
put them in, and I've been saying it for 20 years, and I don't know why we cannot get it anyhow.
My
If
hope.
Wesley can get it, I don't know why we can't.
This is probably not popular to hear, but my hope would be that the calls that we get would come directly to us and not go to 911. I know that will never happen, but it would eliminate that short time in between where it goes to 911 and then gets sent over to us. Any chance of miscommunication in between there would go away, but we won't see that happen.
And the last question is, and I don't know who, but who was I guess what was the better word this correctly, what is the thought process on why we're taking the street boxes out?
So what initially happened, the mayor and Chief Silver were doing some investigation on street boxes, and street boxes are the boxes on poles that have the pull handles on them. Over the last couple of years, and the chief can probably talk on this better than I can talk.
Yeah, that's a fact, when he comes, we'll ask him.
So there were about 3,800 calls, and out of those calls, after we investigated, none of them resulted in an emergency. They all turned out to be false alarm calls. So that was apparatus that was going out, that was not needed. Taken away from an emergency possibly that was happening at the time. So those, they asked our department, because we handle all of the fire alarm system through the city. They asked our department if there was any way that we could go in and disable those, so they would not be false alarm calls anymore. And what we did is, there were about almost 500 boxes, and our crew went out there and started removing them. What they did is they started painting them gray, so that there's no confusion that they're red anymore. They put plates on them, so there's no ability to pull the handle anymore. And they are still, we left them, the reason we left them there is because we still use them for test points for our fire alarm system. So if there is a building that is out across the street, our guys have the ability to go in, go to that box, open it up, and test to see where the open circuit may be. So they still are used, they are no longer used for the ability of pulling in for it.
And I'll make a comment on this because, I believe in the system, it's an old system. But, to take them out completely, you hear other departments take them out and put in radio boxes. But to take them out completely, I think, couple things, well, even if there was only one box pulled for a heart attack or a fire, that's one life we would have saved, by that. I don't believe 3,800 were all false. I believe one out there might have been. I personally would like to see as a council person, would like to see that information before taking it out instead of just taking it out. Second thing is that, as we all know, and I have AT&T, I don't know if everybody else has AT&T or whatever, but a few months ago, my phone was dead. And that's the argument of, you can have a cell phone, everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got a cell phone. Well, if we get attacked, we're gonna get attacked by cell phone, computer, whatever, ATM, credit card, nothing's gonna be used. This system, at least you can still use, you could have used, but full. Matter of fact, the system is so old and usable that I could be on South Elmwood, and if you were on a box and you're Elmwood, and we both knew
Morse code.
I can send you messages through that. So that's how important that system is. So I think I personally think it's a mistake that we took them out. And I'd also be concerned on the ISO rating, whether our insurance is gonna go down, because when we did that, as we know, we got gates for not having enough dispatches and stuff. But like fire hydrants, if we take fire hydrants out, that's an ISO because you don't have protection. So now what do we have for fire protection? We're relying on cell phones. Cell phones don't work that well. So that's just my comment, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Counselor, thank you.
I have a few questions. One thing for being here and for all of your work, which I imagine is quite stressful. I have a few questions. One is building on Councilman Taylor's question. Was Pima then involved in the process to remove the boxes? Because I know terrorism and things like that are part of the hazard mitigation plan. I've been part of their HMP update process. Was Pima involved in the decision to remove the?
I don't know. I don't know if people was involved in that. I know I was given orders from police and fire, from fire and the mayor's office. When we started doing it, I don't know if Pima was involved in the initial discussions yet.
Okay, that might be clear enough, I guess, but something to, because I know terrorism is part of the hazard mitigation plan, and then sort of a terrorism attack that can go after telecoms is part of the hazard mitigation planning process, which is the.
We can also follow up.
Yeah, maybe back to the third.
Yes, so he might not comment when he testifies. That could go. Okay.
I have two more questions. One is for the quality control specialist. Two questions on them. One is, are you imagining this is like a pathway to move up for one of your current, I don't know what the title is,
Dispatchers?
yeah, the dispatchers or the operators, is this like a career path for someone, or would this be a totally new
I
hire?
mean, it could be, if someone is interested in that, it definitely could be. Right now, we're looking at it as a new hire, but, no one has come forward. We haven't really
With interest?
talked about it because we're not even sure what's happening with it yet, so we didn't want to get anyone's hopes up.
Yeah,
But there, very, very well could be somebody from the inside that could say,
okay,
I would be interested in doing this.
and it's a non-union position?
It's a non-union position.
And could a non-union person, because you had mentioned a union employee would be able to reprimand or not reprimand, what's wrong for, you know what I mean, though, like discipline, thank you, chief. Hold accountable. Another union member, can a non-union member do that? Okay.
Yes.
And then the last question I have, is okay?
Yes, please.
Under department revenue, there's about 630,000. Oh wait, that's last year, 750,000 of miscellaneous fees. Can you just talk to us about what those fees are?
Sure, those are master box fees.
Okay,
We have a little bit of an increase this year.
Yeah.
Because we have a new company, Elaine, is that it? PMAM is the new company. And their collections are a little better, they're a little more aggressive, so that is why we have been able to. Get a little bit more revenue this year with our master boxes.
yes, please. One final question. You had mentioned earlier that the 2 positions you got last year helped you reduce overtime callbacks, but it looks like the overtime pay is about the same, going forward. Do you think having those positions is gonna help you in the long run reduce overtime, or what's going on with that line item?
So what ended up happening, as I said, we weren't able to do it for the entire year.
Yeah,
We weren't able to do it until the pilot plan was approved.
yeah,
And once that happened, it was a little bit of a process
yeah,
to put the applications in order, interviews, finally hire people. And it's a little bit of a vetting process. They have to be background checked.
Mhm.
So we have to go through a little bit there. And then there's a a little over 2-month training process.
yeah,
So we've only seen the benefits of it for a couple of months. And we also have 3 people right now that are out on workman's compensation,
okay,
which has added to our overtime.
okay,
We have been fortunate that we have been able to put a couple of people in limited positions to offset that a little bit, but it hasn't been able to totally.
okay, yeah, because it looks like overtime is the same as it was a couple of years ago for FY 25, so it hasn't really reduced it, but maybe it's because of the,
And hopefully next year we will see
maybe next year. It's
results.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, thank you. Great. Madam Auditor, oh,
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Madam Auditor.
I'd like to go back to the quality control specialist. You have the salary budgeted at 69,007, but I believe in the ordinance, it's an A17, which is 76,733 to 83,930. Why is it reduced?
So I don't know. if
No,
you-
I can speak to this. So as I mentioned earlier, the timeline to prepare the ordinances was not as long as I'm usually given. And so there are some clerical errors in the
Okay.
ordinances. I'm making an entire list of those cleanup things and that's all.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Director. Can you explain to me a little bit or to the group here what the difference is between a control center operator and a dispatcher?
Sure. So a control center operator is the person who gets calls. That either the non-emergency call or the calls from 911 that get sent over to us. The control center operator is the person that answers that call. The dispatcher, once the control center operator gets the call, gets the information, puts it into the computer, it goes up to the dispatcher. The dispatcher then takes that call and puts it out to the police officers. So it's a step position. So a dispatcher starts as a control center operator. Usually it takes about 5 years before you're ready to be a dispatcher. But then once you become a dispatcher, you also are a call taker though. You don't dispatch for your entire shift. You may, say there's 4 dispatchers that are on an 8-hour shift. You'll do 2 hours of dispatching. The rest of the time, you'll be a call taker. You'll be taking the calls also. So,
So is that like pretty normal practice?
well, it happens, but a lot of communities, have one center They do police and fire. They do the call taking and the dispatching all in one. For our city, it would be impossible to do that. For the volume of calls, the complexity of the calls, especially now the addition of mental health calls, it would be impossible to do that. So that is why we have the,
So has it always been set up like this in our city?
as far as I know, it's always been that way. I don't know further back than 30 years ago how it was, but I'm assuming that it will. Lori, how long?
33.
33, and at least 33 years. And I'm assuming that it probably has been that way.
Fair enough. My second question on this topic, do you guys have like bilingual dispatchers or what's like
We
the
do.
language?
We do. We have
Situation.
9 or 10 Spanish speaking dispatchers. We also have a language line, which, if it's a language that comes in, we do not have someone that speaks that language. They just hit the speed dial, dial button, that dials the language line, and we'll tell them what language is needed, and the operator will come in and assist with that call.
Am I good to go on, Chair?
Yes, please.
What's like the average, do like people like stay in like the dispatcher positions for like decades or like what's like the average like life?
Yes, our control center operators the last few years, we've had a little bit of turnover, but we've had people retire. You know, I have my administrative staff that have over 64 years of experience sitting behind me. We have people who retired, and Councilman Taylor can attest to this because he always comes and brings our citations for our retirees. We just had a retiree that was over 30 years, our last two crew chiefs that retired were both over 30-year employees. Crew chiefs, dispatchers usually, and even on our fire side, are there for a long haul. And attest that he knows much of the staff that we've had, long-term employees.
That makes sense. My last question, under the line of, supplies, where it says, the telephone line, we saw an increase and it was presented to us at the beginning that it's mostly due to, radio parts or something like that.
Yes.
Radio maintenance and telephone. Is this expense increase, should we expect this to increase going forward? Is this kind of like a one, can you elaborate a little bit?
It didn't increase as much as it did last year to this year because of the new software that Motorola has introduced. And part of it is for security, which we never had before. They have noticed a lot more of security attacks, and it never happened before. It's telecommunications equipment, and it's happening now. So they have introduced stopgaps for that, and we were required to add that software in. So that is why there was the big increase this year. Plus our regular 7 to 8% increase just in regular supplies that we deal with every year with Motorola and, you know, all our vendors that we normally see. But the biggest thing is the new software that we had to add. Hopefully it will stabilize going forward. First year that we had to add it in.
Right, yeah, that makes sense, thank you. And then just my last question, really out of curiosity from my colleague Taylor's points regarding 911. It's like, why would it be impossible for us to receive 911 calls directly?
So if you want me to be honest.
I would love honesty.
State collects massive amount of money for 911. I don't think the state will ever want to give up.
I don't know.
That's
all we know.
I'll be honest with you, that's my gut feeling.
Yeah, I get it.
But I don't think they would ever want to share that piece of the pie. I wish they would. I think we have the ability to answer the calls directly with our people, with our staff that we have, with the amount of people and the, you know, the training that they have. I think we could do it. Unfortunately, it's right now, it's not.
Sorry, I didn't recognize.
Oh, no worries, sir. I just raised my hand. Really
Please, go right ahead.
perhaps maybe very leaky, but what is the quality control entail exactly? What does that look like from a new perspective? So are they just spot testing? Are they listening to calls when they're coming in or?
All of that.
Okay.
It will be random calls that they will pull, which is, we try to do, the team, we try to do now. We don't have enough time to do it effectively. We had a person that could do that, because a lot of times we'll pull a call for the Attorney General's office. And while we're pulling that call, we will turn around and take notes and say, well, this call taker was really, really good during this call. They picked up keywords that were in there that, you know, the normal person won't pick up, or on the other side, this person was really in a hurry to get off the phone, they didn't really get all the information they needed to get. We need to sit that person down and retrain and tell them, this is what you need to do. And as far as after the fact, just both ways, giving good and giving bad feedback for that position.
And then secondly, with regards to languages that are perhaps emerging in the city, obviously Spanish is a predominant language. What's the mechanism to address some of those calls? Is it outsourced to a translator or someone else?
Most of the time, we have someone in the building that is a Spanish speaking person that we are able to do that. But if not, language line is very, very good. They have multiple, I think it's over 26 languages that they do. And we've never had a problem with getting an operator quickly and assisting us with our program.
Okay, all right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a quick one. I know I should ask you, but I would ask you if you're the one. I know she said that when they have floods and stuff, they go up there. Do you guys still like shut down? I'm going back. Shut down communications and dispatch out of up there, or you don't do that?
So we've been doing it out of the commission's conference room only because it's a little bit smaller and we were able to upgrade. So that we can just move our phone right there and have everything. We have a radio area set up right there. At Pima has a lot going on. They have, as the director said, they have.
We do have a backup plan if that.
We absolutely do.
Like talking about being attacked, if that got attacked.
Yes.
I would get
Yes.
concerned if
We've
18 wheeler full of gas left over or something. It's gonna wipe out communications, so.
absolutely. We have 2 backup plans. Hopefully, we never have to go to Charles Street. But we have the capabilities. If we do, actually, our IT team just did an upgrade of the computers there, tested all the computers to make sure that everything is loaded in on those computers that a dispatcher would need. We do have the ability, because there's a phone on every desk there at FEMA, to transfer the lines there, and or if lines.
Command can still use.
Mobile command, yes, we have a mobile command, which is 22 years old this year, and we still are using it. Police department, Matt Mulligan, is working with FEMA on getting us some grant money for that to try to add some new equipment to that also. But yes, we do have the ability to.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we have asked our questions. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, next we're gonna have Commissioner of Public Safety Part. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. We'll swear you in. Please raise your right hand. You swear in the penalty of perjury that the testimony about the data completion of the whole shooting and please put your name for the record in here. Christina Congratulations, Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety. Wonderful. And are we starting with you, Director Silveria?
Yes, we are. Thank you. And next up, we have Commissioner of Public Safety. This is not a revenue generating department. Moving on to expenditures, total salaries in fiscal 25 is proposed at $646,990, a decrease of $673 from the 24 budget. There are no organizational changes proposed by this department. Total benefits budgeted for fiscal 25 are $343,235, a decrease of $140,670 from the 24 budget. There's no services budgeted in the commissioner's office, and total proposed budget for supplies is $641,538, a decrease of $388,856 from the fiscal 24 budget. And this decrease is primarily due to costs associated with the Tyler technology software, which has been moved to the IT budget. And there's no capital expense in this budget, in this department.
Thank you so much, and hold on for 1 minute because I did not mark this, that's an exhibit, so I would like a motion to mark this as exhibit 15.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Vanderbilt, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, Deputy Commissioner, would you like to make any remarks before we start preparing questions?
So, the commissioner's office, as it is now, has 8 people in it, and we're responsible for the fiscal oversight, accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll of all the, state departments, 5 of them. And also the budget preparation and grants management.
Okay. And just, looking over your org chart. We still have our commissioner, is unfunded. That's that, okay. And you were still acting as deputy commissioner, okay, and then, I'm sorry, the MIS director? Who, what was that?
That is the IT director. Greg Moran, actually, who's.
Hello? Okay, all right. And I think we have, how many other vacancies?
We have one other vacancy besides the commissioner.
And that's manager of fiscal operations. Okay, and can you tell me what's going on with the vacancies? Are they being advertised and?
The manager of fiscal operations, I am working closely with the finance department to, develop the specs for that. And as for the commissioner of public safety, defer to finance.
So the commissioner of public safety position is also unfunded in this year's budget, so the position will remain in the ordinances as allowed, but I do not believe there's any intention of filling more funding in that position in fiscal 2025.
Okay. All right.
Bless you.
And who's doing the fiscal operating current?
I
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for questions and then I'll have one. Yes, Councilor Taylor.
So I guess first of all, since there's no commissioner there, what is the role of the deputy commissioner?
Deputy commissioner oversees the finances, applies for grants, oversees all grants management, reporting, fiscal reporting, progress reporting for all 5 departments.
Okay, so going into that, as you know, there was an audit done for the towing, city towing,
Right,
and obviously that went to you, is that correct?
the audit.
Well, no, the paying of the bills for the
Paying
towing.
of the bills, actually, the individual departments sign off on and review.
So when they send the bills in, you don't look at them at all.
If there's
You
a
just said,
question,
because you said you were in charge of all finance.
if there's a question regarding the invoice, they'll bring it to me, the girls that work for me. But if not, they bring it directly to the individual departments and they sign off.
So when there's a bill or whatever that says, tow vehicle $5,000, you're okay with that? Even though it didn't.
Say I'm okay with that. I'm not good.
Well, we paid it. And I know in the police department, the captain brought up, traffic bureau that came out, I'm just talking what came out in the audit. There was $89,000 that was paid. I don't believe the captain okayed that. So that would have to probably come from your office, is that correct? Because he brought it up and said, why did
So
we
we
pay?
have a procedure in place that all tows for the abandoned vehicle tow go to the traffic bureau for review, signed off on, and then sent to DPW for payment.
So who would have signed off on that 89,000 that we haven't approved?
Depends when it was.
What was during the 21, 22 time frame?
I don't think I can speak to the audit right now, as, yeah.
If you'd like, we can pull the payment and see who
Well,
signed off.
I guess my concern is, and my concern is that, obviously, I read the audit, I don't know if everybody read the audit. But we had an issue, and I want to know if that issue's been solved. In other words, are we still, as finance committee, it concerns me when we pay $89,000 and we don't know if the service was done. So as the deputy commissioner, you said that you okay and go through all the finances that come through from the different public safety people. I'm just wondering if we called you in, can you show us where it's being better? I guess that's about the question.
So on all of the invoices and that particular payment and everything you're referring to, all went through the law department previously, and this has all been vetted out,
But how are we doing it now, I guess? So
what I just said.
everything goes through the law, every time it's a.
For answer, Counselor Taylor.
We are only, the police department only pays for, and I'm sorry, excuse me, reviews abandoned vehicle tows. That's all they review.
And we have subsequently moved the funding for abandoned vehicle tows to the Department of Public Works. So any bills post this audit or post, I want to say we did that in 2023 budget. So starting fiscal year 2023, all abandoned tow bills were, to Deputy Commissioner Richards' point, reviewed by the police department, forwarded to the Department of Public Works to be vetted and paid.
May I just suggest something? I'm just, because we haven't really dealt with the audit. Might we? I mean, we do with the audit and there definitely are things that we probably would like to follow up with to make sure that we're doing things very differently going forward. What I might suggest is that we have a separate finance meeting on that audit.
I agree, but I'm just saying it's the first time we've had the opportunity to.
I understand that, but I think.
The audit's probably 3-4 months old.
Oh, I get it. No,
So-
I get it.
So Councilman, I can answer that there were many of us deposed for that, the internal auditor also for that audit.
Okay, all right, well, then maybe what we'll do is, if it's all right with the finance committee, I think what we'll do is schedule a separate meeting so we can discuss that audit and about, you know, what we're doing differently to make sure that those mistakes, what I perceive and what the audit says they were, that are not recurring, so why don't we have a separate meeting on that?
Sure.
That's
That sounds good to me, yeah.
okay.
I just got one last question. On here, it says about the VIN verification. I know the VIN station's gone, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
But we have fees in there, is that because it carried over, it ended in the middle of the year? Like it says,
Yeah,
2024, 12,144.
Right, that was what was collected, so it was dissolved.
And where did those people go? That were assigned to the VIN department?
They're assigned to the police department. That's where they fell. They're still there. And it was the police department's decision to dissolve the VIN station. Only the revenue went into the commissioner's budget.
Okay. I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Graves.
My question is about the two vacancies. One, you said you're not going to try to get anybody in it for this year,
The commissioner,
the commissioner. The other one, you said you're working on trying to figure out what their job is gonna be. And you're working two positions.
That is correct.
I think Crystal and I can speak to that a little bit. It is incredibly hard to find any municipal finance people. There's a national shortage. You can read about it on the internet and Google it. It's really hard to find those positions. So it's not for lack of wanting to fill that position. It's just, we haven't been able to fill that position.
Okay. So I think my question is, she's working two jobs and you're trying to come up with this manager of physical operations. Is this, I just want to know if this is gonna be her assistant. So this is gonna be more like a deputy to what she's doing, because she's
It
doing.
would probably take some of the burden off of her. So this, I mean, Elaine does a lot of work. She oversees the fiscal operations of some of our largest departments. She also applies for and receives a lot of federal grants, over $21 million in the 9 years we've been here. And just overseeing those federal grants is a full-time job for somebody. There's a lot of regulations that gets audited yearly. She's never had an audit finding in any of her federal audits since she's been here, so she does an amazing job with that. I don't know if anyone.
I concur, my council. Membership that has brought in 21 million, I'd say that's 17 times your 9-year, 10-year salary. She's clearly going to keep, she was not saying job. The burden placed upon her with both jobs over time has become such that even the finance director will readily admit that her work is outstanding and we highly valued. So having someone to take over the fiscal operations would allow her to do more of the management that and grant writing that she is expert on.
My question is, what are you getting paid? Are you getting paid the same pay right now?
She's being paid as a deputy. We are prohibited by ordinance that we cannot pay two salaries, so she's being paid for deputy position.
Counselor
No,
Sanchez,
are
are you finished, Counselor? Counselor
Yeah,
Sanchez?
I'm
I'll
still
come back to
thinking
you.
about that.
I'll come back.
You sure?
Mhm.
Thank you. My first question is, how long has the manager of fiscal operations been unfunded? Sorry, did someone answer that question already?
Well, it's been funded, it's.
Or how long has it been vacated?
It was created in fiscal 2024's budget, and there was a hiring freeze, so it's a brand new position in this current fiscal year. It has been vacant since it was created in July. Part of the reason for that is due to the hiring freeze. There was a delay in posting the position. I believe it has either been posted or we're finalizing a job spec right now, so that we can recruit and retain a evaluated candidate.
Oh, so it hasn't been posted yet?
No, it's not yet posted.
They haven't done it.
Follow-up question by the auditor.
Madam,
Oh, I'm
let me follow up with
so
that.
sorry. Yes, Madam Auditor.
Prior to this title, there was another fiscal advisor position in there for many years that was never filled. It was filled multiple times and then everybody left. So there was multiple people in the position and then they left. So
And which business?
Man, it's
The managers?
prior to, yes, that position was upgraded.
getting all of
I
that.
mean, I think that the fact that we lose people so much speaks to what we're trying to do with, we elevated the position, they're overseeing with Elaine several departments, we did it the same thing with parks, we did the same thing with DPW. We can't attract and retain people for long because accounting professionals just make more money in the private sector. So, I mean, that is the reason.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Counselor
Are you
Sanchez.
done?
Yes.
My next question is about grants. Is there any way you could get us a list of every single active grant that we've received in the last 2 years or ones that you might be applying to?
Yeah.
And I ask that because I know that we have recently been awarded a grant, but I think it's DOJ or someone for additional police officers. Is that coming through your office?
Yes, I'll apply for that.
So my question or comments around that, I think we should definitely be applying and exploring every single grant opportunity as much as possible. But I do have serious concerns on what happens when that grant runs out and we're stuck. I don't know if that's the proper way of wording it, if we're stuck with officers or firefighters, but we are then responsible for the full salaries and benefits. And that's my biggest concern with public safety in general, is that our budgets have been increasing pretty consistently every year for the last 20 years. And we're gonna get to a point where there's gonna be some serious financial concerns. So I would really like to know or learn a little bit more how that plays into your decision when applying or exploring grants on when the grant money has run out, of where we're looking at financial wise as a city to maintain those hired officers or firefighters.
Is there any way you might be able to give us a general idea on your approach in those circumstances?
So I mean, I have to receive approval from the mayor's office first before I could apply for any grants. And then I can relate with the cops grant that was just received. It was for 20 officers. It's a 3-year grant program and it's an increasing match, decreasing federal money over the 3 years. And then there is a 1-year retainer period to hold the officers after the end of the grant.
Okay, and so then that leaves us with 20 officers that have to be funded through the city budget.
That is correct, but it wouldn't be I mean, as you move through the 3 years, the amount you have to fund increases gradually each of those 3 years till the 4th year when it is the full salary and benefits.
It would be very interesting, thank you for asking the question, to have you're right, not only a list of the grants, but specifically the ones that are, funding our officers and what the, if we can have some sort of summary without adding too much to your burden.
No, that's not.
I think it would be so helpful for us.
Okay, and count,
Yes, I'm sorry.
I think
Director.
over those 3 years, we also have firefighters retire. So there's a lot of attrition that happens during that 3 years. So while those, it's not like all of a sudden we're hit with it. We're also losing police officers and like ramping up how much we're paying for the new.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of moving parts. I think if we have as much information as possible, it'll help us make decisions better as a committee. My last question on that topic, what's the matching requirement as a city for that specific grant?
The dollar amount, I'll have to get back to you on that because the funding only pays for 125,000 per officer for the 3-year period. So the city is required to match everything.
125 per year per officer?
Correct.
I appreciate you getting us more information.
Not a problem. I'll get you the guidelines for it and what in the present grant that we have for the cops on it, but there's 2 in place right now, one's for 10 officers, that is nearing the end, there's only maybe 3 more months left. And then the one for 20, we haven't even started getting into that one yet, because it would have to do with the next recruitment period.
Thank you. All right, any other questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Vargas.
Thank you very much for being here. So what is your role like in that way? Like you view the whole police department or just use commission police safety?
Commissioner of Public Safety, it falls under, the mayor is the acting commissioner of public safety. In that role, I report to him, and as I stated, it's the fiscal management of all 5 public safety departments and budget and grant management for all 5.
And who writes the grants?
I do, along with assistance from the individual departments if required.
Okay, you're doing a great job on that.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
So who's in charge of like to how many towing companies do we have to pick up any broken cars for the police department, fleet cars, DPW and police property?
Who's in charge of that?
Yeah.
It would be, well, there's 2 different contracts. Public property actually oversees them. However, the police department would be in charge of the towing portion for the abandoned vehicles.
So you don't have to do anything with
I do not.
towing companies or such?
No, I do not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please, thank you. It's a decrease on the. You can explain from maintenance services, so please explain the decrease of 388,550 from 748,000.
Correct.
Are we saving money or we?
No, we're not. Those expenses are moved over to the city's IT department.
So you just move the budget from the, keep the tent on the road. All right, thank you very much.
All right, any other questions? Deputy Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for presenting this. Okay. Now we're moving on to police. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
First, if you want, you can see the progress.
Thank you, Chief, very much for coming, and thank you all. I know you brought your team tonight, and I do thank you all for coming. We'll start with Jeff. I mean, the director. I'm sorry. The director.
Thank you. Next up, we have the police department. Revenue is budgeted at $11,620,275 for fiscal 25. This is an increase of $2,825,000 over the fiscal 24 budget. And the primary reason for this increase is due to moving the police detail revenue out of non-departmental to the police department budget to reflect the department's revenue sources more accurately. Moving on to expenditures, total salaries for fiscal 25 is proposed at $55,796,070. This is an increase of $3,313,106 over the fiscal year 24 budget, and the department has requested the following organizational changes. Fund Police Academy trainees of 40 at a cost of $416,000. Defund the administrative confidential assistant at a savings of $64,365, and fund a special assistant to the chief of police at a cost of $73,064. The net change is $424,699. The total benefits budgeted in fiscal 25 is $48,432,815, an increase of $4,700,897 over the 24 budget. Moving on to services, total proposed budget for services in fiscal 25 is $4,806,007. This is a decrease of $620,245 from the 24 budget. And the primary reason is the decrease is the reduced annual costs associated with the parking enforcement contract and promotional assessment costs. Total proposed budget for supplies in fiscal 25 is $5,014,309, an increase of $110,127 over the 24 budget. This increase is primarily due to additional funding for police car radio replacements and increased funding for the GO team, along with several reallocations across the accounts. And there's no capital budget in this department.
Okay, Chief.
Chair, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to go over to actually go to be able to present today on the finance committee. What's one of the important needs that the police department is being able to. There's a small couple of statements that I would like to make. First and foremost, public safety and the quality of life in our city is the top priority for the mayor, for the council members, and obviously for the members of the Providence Police Department. However, we have challenges and needs to ensure the public safety and to improve the quality of life in our city are met. Some of those issues are recruitment and retention, technology to support the daily operations of the police department, clinicians to support behavioral health crisis calls that we respond to, and unfortunately, as we all know, criminal activities like shootings and homicides. With the fiscal support of the mayor and the honorable members of the council this past year, there was some significant impacts that the police department did and occurred to maintain public order and safety. I mentioned some of them. The first one was we tackled the ATV issue by creating a strategic initiative that enabled us to make 122 arrests, seize over 165 ATVs. We got guns, narcotics, and firearms. We also created a digital intelligence unit where detectives are integrated technology to solve crimes. Technology is a critical aspect of many police departments around the nation. Providence is not the only one. We're just trying to stay up to speed with all the departments of the union. We are actually a model example in country. Because technology and innovation is something that they mentioned in the 21st century policing regarding the 6 pillars. Community engagement and partnership is important. The patrol department and the community district commanders are vital links to this. We need the community to be able to make sure that our quality of life in the city is good and things in that manner. Gun violence in our city, as I mentioned, continues to be a challenge. We charged over 295 gun offenses last year, seized over 315 guns last year. I just want to mention some of the stats coming year to date. All 4 violent crimes category remains down. Homicides are 50% down. Forced sexual offenses are 33% down. Robbery 7% down. And aggravated assaults 20% down. Flood was rolled out in 2022 and became a new tool in my toolbox in technology. In 2023, there were about 238 cases that were solved through the assistance of FLOC. And obviously, as I mentioned, improvement in training, with your support. Last year, we were able to put a training academy, which is currently, I'm proud to say that, we have 35 recruits in there now that are due to graduate September 7th, and we're looking forward to that. So looking ahead to this 2024-2025 calendar year, we're focused to continue the department to growth and success, continue to be an example. Our focus will remain steadfast on improving the quality of life in our city with innovation, community engagement, training, and recruitment, as well as professional, constitutional, proactive policing. So thank you for your time. I just want to make sure I mention some of those highlights. Is the active, proactive work of the men and women of this police department that represent this capital city in such a phenomenal way. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, can you?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you, catching me. Yes, I would like a motion to mark this as the police budget. Yes, as exhibit 16. Okay. So the motion is made by Councillor Graves, seconded by Councillor Engerball, all in favor? All opposed. All right, Councillor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Chief, for being here and presenting on your budget needs and requests. I just want to, give you a kudos on the record. You've been nothing but amazing to work with. I know you have a very challenging job and you get a lot of blame at certain times, which is unwarranted at times. But I just want to thank you that you always pick up the phone call and respond as quickly as possible. But with that, I do have a few questions. The first question, pretty simple. How would that position change help you as a chief? Who does the confidential assistant, administrative confidential assistant report to now?
So to report to me now, the change in job description is one of the issues. She's going to be tasked with doing a lot more actually than before. One of them is billing, which she never did before. We're taking over the false alarm reports, which is something that she needs to do. Also, the deputy chief and the commander of the administrative division, as well as all the other department members of the command staff, are going to be. She's going to be handling their calendars and things of that nature. Also, as well, she's going to be handling reports, some reports that she never did before. This new person. It's going to be a job description that's going to put out. That person needs to apply, and it's going to increase in the work of that office that never happened before. Like annual report, for example, someone else does that, and so we want to make sure that that person is up to speed on that.
What do you mean by the false alarm? Like the alarm station boxes that are businesses?
Correct. Any false alarms that come in and say, if we respond to a business and for example, the owner happens to be there, happens to be a false alarm, and we respond to them more than twice or 3 times, they get billed for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I know your department is not responsible for that contact, but that is a absolute disaster when it comes to customer service. I know from digging into it recently, it seems like the debt of that got sold off to another company and the customer reps are in like Texas or something. So I don't know who is working on administration level, but we think we need to do a lot of work around that. I mean, I've been dealing with that for a couple months now on certain businesses in my ward. And
I agree. We got a new vendor, and I'll be honest with you, I agree with the same. My name's on that letter, and so I get called all the time about this stuff. So there's a new vendor, and I believe that they're taking over because that past vendor was it was a disaster. I agree with you.
Thank you. My next question, not really a question, it's a comment. I guess kind of this question. You said 138 cases were solved one year with the help of FLOC.
So in 2022 is when it went into effect, but in 2023 is that year last year.
There's 233
138 cases.
133
assisted with insolvent crimes or either gathering evidence for other stuff that.
So I asked that because I do have I do recognize that it is beneficial to you in certain capacities or cases. But in terms of public trust, transparency, civil liberties, whatever you want to call it, that technology has never been in front of any public body. We've never given the public an opportunity to weigh in opinions, comments on it. I know certain contracts have been under the threshold where it doesn't require finance approval, which is fine, but this has been something that's kind of been in the back of my mind, at certain times, there's folks that have reached out to me, the ACLU, et cetera, about different, I wouldn't even say concerns, but questions and transparency around it. So I would definitely would like to see more, I don't know if vetting at this point would make sense, but an opportunity for the public to speak with folks in your department, just to learn a little bit more, to get a better understanding with that technology. Is that something you would be open to?
Absolutely, Councilman, I agree with you. I think that was something that, back when the pilot program started and it was presented, I think that was the process, but at this point, I think we have enough evidence to show how efficient it has been in law enforcement, like again, not just the Providence, but around it. So I'm more than willing to do that, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And then, am I good, Chairwoman?
Yes, please.
What are your numbers looking like right now?
As far as the police department?
Yeah.
So we got about 421 officers right now. With the 35 that we're looking to add, it'd be obviously 456. The 35 that are in the academy, and we can't wait for that.
That's for September?
Yes, sir, September 2nd.
How long have the folks from the last academy been on the actual job?
The last academy graduated a year ago, so we got about a year and a half.
A year and a half. How many were in that class?
In that class, we had also 35. 29, I'm sorry, yeah. Got the 35 stuck in my head, 29.
49.
And it's just not just like that sometimes you ask for 45 and start with that. And then they start the academy and you end up with 29 like we did last time. We ended up asking 40 last year, we ended up with 35 this year.
Out of the 421, how many would you consider as like patrolmen or like people that are actually officers that are out in the streets interacting with?
So the largest department, the largest unit, it's the patrol division. And it's about over 200 officers that work in the patrol division on patrol. However, we are all hands on deck, including detectives. They're on the street, narcotics, specializing in the community response team. So all officers, a call comes in, they're in the area, they respond. But again, it's personnel but the patrol division is what handles the majority of the community. I mentioned that earlier, the vital link between the community and the police department. 30% of our activities, which actually came from the council, were in the community, which the personnel that were going out of the patrol division. So the PLC person is over 200 in the patrol division.
So do new recruits like automatically start in the patrol division? Is that how that works?
That's correct. That policy, they got to do 4 years of patrol before they move in.
Oh, that's good. And on that point of everyone wearing hats, I do want to recognize and shout out my district lieutenant Esposito and even Captain Fernandez. They've been to every single one of my community meetings that I could remember. And for some folks that are in leadership and have a lot of management, the fact that they do make the time, and I always see Fernandez when I'm on Atwell's driving by and taking care of folks. So I do want to recognize those men in your department. And then my last, I have a question, comment, and just another comment on top of that. So something that I've recently have encountered with a new employment that I'm doing personally is that the Providence Police Department does not have a liaison when it comes to homeless folks or unhoused folks. And a lot of our departments that surround us do, and that's usually an interaction or a resource that a lot of unhoused providers use and capitalize and work collaboratively. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if we do have one, but is that something that we could possibly fit or do in the department under your leadership, Chief?
So yeah, I mean, I can hear you loud and clear, but we do have a holistic approach when it comes to encampments and homeless. And so the district commanders in the specific districts that happens to be in encampment area, they are the ones that actually respond. However, I know the administration has plenty of social agencies that work in conjunction with us before we even respond, because it's very uncomfortable for someone that's going through struggles in life and seeing an officer in uniform responding to those areas. So we allow the social agencies to respond first, provide the services that they should be providing to them. And then at that point, if it becomes an issue where it's becoming a problem, it will take time, it will take months. But I guess my answer is that yes, a liaison is important, but I think it's important to have a holistic approach with the right resources to be able to provide the resources to the people that they need. A cop or a police officer or civilian that was directly with the police department is not enough. I don't think it's.
Yeah, no, and I would respectfully push back a little bit on that, Chief. And I feel comfortable enough to do that with you because we've had a lot of healthy conversations in both our times here and in these positions. And there gets to a certain point where a provider just can't do anything more to help that individual. And unfortunately, the only other method or next step is a removal or vacate. But to have an officer, police officer, badge gun that is trained in trauma-informed policy and ethical ways of doing it, in my opinion, is so critical. There's going to be a point where you guys are going to have to interact, and if you don't have that experience, the professional experience, because I would say every officer that I've interacted with the Providence Police Department is a decent person and means well. But it's a completely different level when it comes to having the skills and trainings to interact with folks. So that would be my only other comment on that topic.
I agree with you. I think, and listen, I'm open to be able to find solutions for any social challenges that we may face. And so if that's an option, absolutely.
I appreciate that, Chief. And then just my last comment, where I was kind of alluding to it before. Is I don't know if I'm reading it wrong or if I'm not reading the whole picture, but the actuals and salaries for the Providence Police Department in 2022 were 29 million. We're seeing a proposed budget this year in 2025 of 55 million. That's almost
Hopefully I can assist with that.
yeah, exactly. I'm just like, that's a lot of money. It's
Yeah, no, it's
in a
not.
few years.
The actuals are a little bit misleading. So during those years, we had ARPA revenue recovery, and the audit requirements on that is we need to demonstrate where the ARPA revenue recovery dollars were expended. To keep the trend in our budget consistent, we've always reduced police salaries by that amount, so that when we're looking back in history and time, and we see these major dips in salary expenditure, we know that that's because we had federal dollars helping support our budget in those operating years. If you go back and look at the budgets, which we can provide if necessary, you can see that the budget is significantly more than 22 million.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could provide that, I think it'd be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
If I could also do that, I'm sorry, you asked the deputy commissioner earlier a question about the grant that we received and as far as the officers. And so I know that we mentioned as far as retirement, and I just want to make sure that we will understand that for the next 10 years, the police department has about over 100 officers that could retire today. So 121 could retire today. Next year will be 140. And so every year for the next 10 years, we'll be between 100 and 156 officers that could retire. I'll give you an example. Back in 2017, we ran 4 academies from 2017 to the first of the time. 4 academies. It was about 182 people that retired in that process. In that same time, we had 150 people that retired. So we only had a game of 52 to the first time. So just something to keep in perspective that yes, we get funded, but people who need retired will down. So.
No, I appreciate that, Chief, and I would just state, I mean, what I would be interested in is to see the percentage of eligible retirees in every department in the city, so we could actually compare what the Providence Police Department is looking like compared to the fire department, to even the Providence School District. What does the retire eligibility percentage look like in that department, all the way to HR? That's what I would be super interested in learning to get a better understanding of how critical. I'm not gonna say it does sound like a very critical alarm sounding number, but to fully understand the full potential of those numbers, I would like to see that percentage across all departments. if that's possible, finance, that's probably a nightmare for. It's a good thing.
We can work on it. It may take us a little while, but we can get that to you. And I will also clarify that there is a significant number of employees of the school department that are not part of our pension fund. So when we are pulling this data, we can pull it for all different divisions and departments, but it's only going to be for people that participate in the city pension.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Vanderbilt. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Is it okay if I have a number?
So of course, you just work through your list and then we'll go on from there.
We probably really find out. Thank you so much, Colonel, for being here, and, I do have a lot of questions, but please take it in the spirit of this is a very large percentage of the budget, and that's why. I think last year I asked a lot of questions, and I saw in the press next day, like, people don't support the police. I was like, no, I just have a lot of questions, this is like a third of the budget, so. And I also specifically want to say, I really appreciate how helpful you, I know last year when you presented, it was on like your second week. Steve, I imagine that was stressful. Yes, also how helpful you've been over the last year. I know, you called me at 5 a.m. in response to that. You came to one of my community meetings yourself, and then Lieutenant Brown comes to all of mine as well, and you've been so helpful with all the traffic safety and moving me through that. So just want to say all that on my record, how much I appreciate you and the staff that you've been up to. So thank you. And again, I'm sorry about that driving incident. I was shocked when you called me back. So a couple questions. So just to start off, there's so many. So I think you said for the recruitment, we're looking to do 40 in the next recruitment.
Correct.
And is that's one single recruitment for this 416?
Sorry?
That's one recruitment? That's just like one class?
Correct.
Okay. And then if we're recruiting for 40, how many do we tend to then get? Like how many?
We're looking for 40.
How many tend to stay? Like, I assume it's like a funnel where we start with 40 and it turns into a different number.
So yeah, that's what we put out, we do a recruitment process, and then if we're lucky enough, and as we all know, that recruitment has been very difficult along the way, and we get to the 40 that we want. And then so it starts the academy. And it's been very, it's common that when you keep the academy off, not everyone stays, and we can lose 5, we may lose 10. And so it depends, but it's usually, we may lose 10, and you don't know. And lucky enough, we can stay the 40, it all depends. Some people join, fly, get into the first week of the academy, and then decide that that's not for them, and then they resign. And so, yeah, but the goal is to graduate, hire 40 and graduate.
And then when are you planning to start the recruitment?
I'm sorry?
When, oh, sorry, I should use my outdoor voice.
I apologize.
When are you planning to start the recruitment?
So probably as soon as it's approved, immediately, we're going to do the same, the second that we did, last year, it's phenomenal, and I have to give credit to the human resources, that we do community engagement director, and so, and that's the reason, I had municipalities in the state that put out, a job open, and they had no one apply or apply it, so that's, for Providence, we had over 400 people that applied, and there was a lot of residents from the city.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yes, please.
Can you talk about how many vacancies you currently have? So you said you had 421 officers. How big would you want to be ideally? Like how many?
So the police department, I would like to be closer to somewhere closer to the 500 numbers for police department. I think the city is growing. As you all know, we get a lot of events and different emergencies that occur. And so that's the number we're looking at. And so 421, and with the next academy 435, we're at 456. With the 440 will be close to 494, which is the number that we're authorized.
Okay. And then, can you talk a little bit, I was looking at the org chart, how many women do you have in leadership positions?
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 women in leadership positions, and so that is a goal and mission of us. I'm proud to say that in this administration we promoted the first female to the rank of major in 150 years of the department. It's shocking, but it occurred, and I'm proud of that. We have 2 female captains. And then we have 2 female sergeants that were not able to take the last weekend's test, but good time they will be. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do now. And also figure out a way in which we can internally provide training for individuals on how to test. And as you know, that we're going to give a lot more opportunities when it comes to promotional testing in the department.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about, I was looking at the org chart, And there's, the Chief Public Information Officer, Lindsay, who reports, it looks like to both you and the mayor. Can you talk a little bit about what that position does?
So yeah, Lisa reports to us, mayor, but she also oversees communication to those the public communication for the fire department, police department, FEMA, and we report to the communications director here at City Hall.
Okay, so she works like across all of the.
Correct, she works, yeah.
I thought you know.
Yes, no, that is correct, yeah. Yes, she supports all of the public safety agencies and reports through the city's communications office, so there's consistent messaging across all divisions.
Okay. And then, can we talk a little bit about the, in general, the contracts we have for the various cameras? It looks like we have a lot of revenue from those, but then, an equal amount or like a pretty similar amount of expenses related to them. Can you just talk a little bit about the different contracts we have, when they're coming back up? Yeah, just a little bit about, we've got the red lights, we've got the school zones, and then now we have the sound cameras we propose.
Yes, I know the administration is in current contract negotiations with this company. There's been some issues with the cameras in the past, and I see the numbers as far as revenue is going down, and because some of the cameras were broken in the past. And there was other factors that has caused that we're hoping that the company can resolve. But I know that the city's in current contract negotiations with this company.
Do you guys know when we'll see that here on this committee, the review of that contract?
I don't know specifically when we will see this. I know the red light camera and speed zone camera contracts are up at the end of this month. There was an RFP process and bids were received, but my understanding is that it's still being reviewed by our chief operating officer. So I anticipate that will be moving quickly due to the timing of that. The parking contract, which is the contract services at the 657, where you're seeing the reduction, is under contract currently. I believe it expires at the end of next year, I want to say. I don't have it specifically in front of me, so I'll move to some of those. But I do know we're under contract with them, and the reduction is due to the negotiated fees associated with that contract.
Okay. Can I just interrupt? What is that contract cover?
That's parking, so that's going to cover environmental tickets, parking citations, all parking enforcement
Technology.
Yes, like the technology to issue the citations.
Okay.
For the parking.
Madam Clerk. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not working. You can't hear each other. I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, I think there's something to say about. Yeah.
I'm gonna follow up to that. We did have an audit done, and there were some findings with the vendor who was conduit. And, I really hate to see us get our backs pushed against the wall on that contract. That bid was done in December. And if you do have your backs pushed against the wall, you should see what our net revenue will be on that and if it will be worth it. Because that audit should come before this committee for discussion before you approve any contract. I do ask that you all consider that first.
What's the timeline on the audit?
The audit is done.
We received the audit already.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was concerning. I think the question here is that the contract is expiring and we don't want to have our back against the wall to sign a new conduit contract. So I guess we will be, Chief, is there some timing on this? Do you know when?
I do not have a timeline. I would defer respectfully to the chief operating officer, but we'd be happy to get an answer to the internal order as quickly as possible.
I would appreciate that because I'm sure that maybe if you could give that message and I'd like to hear back on where we are with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, no, thank you. And that might be part of the rest of my question, but, because it looks like the revenue from these contracts is slated to go up pretty substantially from FY 23, FY 24, and now FY 25. So the red light camera, FY 23, it looks like it was 3.3 million. Now we're looking at almost 5 million. And same with the school zone from 2.6 up to 3.5. And it was 3.5 in 2024 as well, but do we know why those might be going up so substantially?
Due to enforcement and monitoring of that contract. So I can say that last month's revenue was about 300,000. When we were at the beginning of this fiscal year, it was closer to 100. So at this point in time, we are now receiving all of the bills into the So all of the bills are actually being forwarded to our budget analyst who has the report and she validates and confirms every single invoice before they are issued. In addition, our COO is also more actively monitoring what cameras are and are not active. And so if we are being billed for an inactive camera, we are requesting and receiving credits against those invoices. So we are getting much better at managing those contracts currently. And based on that, we're anticipating that the revenue we had budgeted last year will come to fruition in the upcoming fiscal year. The other point to note is most of these contracts are ticket based. And so if we're seeing a decline in revenue, we will not see a one-to-one decline, but the expenditures will also decrease.
Oh, please, sorry, following along on yours, the sound camera. Yes, what company are we using for that?
That is, we are unsure at this time. There's legislation that's pending to proceed with that. However, the administration wanted to ensure that we had funds available if and when that legislation were to pass. So we have an estimated $100,000 in revenue budgeted along with an estimated expense of $100,000. So it's budget neutral at this point in time while we explore what our options are.
And so we are not allowed to just, I know you're not the legal department, I guess it's really empty. But we're not allowed to use our sound cameras until we have, legislation from the state, is that correct?
That's our recommendation, yes.
Okay, all right. Madam Auditor.
To follow up, Eddie, there is current ordinances in place that only allow so many cameras for the usage of the speed and red light. Would that also include the sound cameras?
So I understand that there's a current draft legislation for the State House to allow the city to use sound cameras. I don't know if there's been a draft circulating to modify the city ordinance. If the city ordinance is narrowed to red light and speed cameras, I was positive that they're not the speed camera.
So you're saying that we would, should the state give us the enabling legislation, approve the sound cameras, we would have to amend our ordinance?
I don't know.
All right,
Well, yeah,
you can get back to us on that, should it pass? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, no, thank you. That was where I was headed next. And where did the $100,000 expense estimation come from? Like, where did it was just so like one-to-one? I was just wondering where that came from.
That's how the estimation.
Yes.
So the goal is to make this either a revenue generating or budget neutral initiative. And so the guidance I received was to ensure that the revenues and expenditures matched while we explored these possibilities. Of course, assuming this all comes to pass, we will be presenting a much more refined budget in fiscal 2026. However, because it is so new, we're using very rough estimates.
And before any sort of use of sound cameras came to fruition, assuming that state legislation passes, would you be open to returning to council to have a conversation about how those are used? I remember when plot came out, and that was before I was on council, there were a lot of concerns in the community, and there wasn't really a forum in which to voice those. And I've heard both people really excited about the potential for reduced noise, but also a lot of people really concerned about like, what would they be like? Can they hear my conversations? Is it only about decibels? There's just a lot of, I think, reasonable questions about additional monitoring of residents and sounds. Would that be something that would come back before council or have a public way to discuss?
If there's a way where I need to inform and educate the public in any way on how that would operate, absolutely. But this question doesn't know how far would have to be from the camera for the decibels, and so so that like there's an educational process that I need to participate in. That's no problem.
Yes, okay. Back over here, there's a line 49252 transfer of funds from fund 252, of $2.75 million. What's that?
That's police detail revenue. So we had previously budgeted police detail revenue in the non-departmental budget. However, because it is generated by the police department, we felt it was more accurate to reflect it in this department's budget.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And then it looks like there's a potential large decrease in contractual services, 53420. What's causing the decrease? It looks like FY24 adopted budget is 1.18 million, and now it looks like it's about 657,000.
Yeah, Councilwoman, that was the parking contract I mentioned.
Oh, that was part of it. Okay, cool. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you totally did do that. Thank you. I'll write it down. And then two more for now. One is Just a small question, so for uniforms and apparel, it looks like we spend over $1 million a year on uniforms and apparel. Where do we buy our uniforms?
We want leaders, it's a company that we utilize, it seems like been on the job and so before that, so, really.
Oh, nice, okay, so they're like the local, nice,
Yeah.
okay, good. And then, under training 52700 is the, $200,000, is that separate and above the academy? I'm not looking at my separate thing. It looks like the academy is 416, so what's the line item for training? 52700.
Oh, yeah, that's the, I'm sorry, that's the FBI, so this is professional development for the officers. pretty much. It's, so we send people to the senior management institute of policing, when they get promoted, they go to Rod Williams, it's part of professional development training, that we go to, actually, the FBI Academy, when that's offered, they participate, and I think it's critical for us, when you're advancing rank, and you're in positions of leadership, that you get the proper training, that's what that is.
Okay. And then one last question for now. If the ideal number of officers is somewhere around 500, when was the last time we had that number of officers? Because it seems like the budget has steadily been going up over time, which I know is not entirely accurate based on what we have because of the ARPA money. But over time, it looks like there has been a pretty steady increase, even taking that into account. Is that because we've been trying to like get to the 500, or are we like?
Yeah, I think we've been trying to get to 500, I guess, explained earlier, since 2017, we ran 4 academies.
Yeah.
Back to back, and we gained 182 officers, but then we lost 150 officers, so we really had a gain of 32. I'm going back, I got 30 years of service, I think the highest we ever been is like around 450, 460. We've never been able to pass that, and I guess that a lot to do with attrition. People retired, and so I think it's important to also keep on the academies. I don't remember when I became lieutenant in 2010, we didn't have any academies, I want to say for about 2 years or so, maybe even longer than that. And now we're still paying for that now, because the fact that we didn't hire anybody at the time, people retire, and it's almost like, we're trying to catch up.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's it for right now.
Yes, Councilor Graves.
She took most of my.
Oh, correct.
However, I too wanna say that the lieutenant and the captain in my area are fabulous. They come to each and every last one of my community meetings, and the community loves them. So,
It's good to hear. Thank you,
Yes.
Councilwoman.
and also I want to make another comment before I ask questions. I think you have to give Alyssa the major some kudos, because I was gonna scream and holler at you guys at the honoring of the fallen police officer. I seen all the people when they marched out, and they did an excellent job, by the way. But all I seen was these tall guys and guys and guys and guys, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know there gotta be a woman in this group somewhere. And then finally, they all came on like a little group at the end, and then when they get somewhere, you can't even see them. So I was like, oh no, not until 2024. Having this. But she said, oh no, you guys do that deliberately because you want the tallest to the shortest. That's a good thing, but next time I think maybe we should do the shortest to the tallest, because I don't, as a woman, it was kind of, so I was like, wait a minute. Wait till I see the sheet.
Absolutely.
So we're switching around a little bit, but moving on. I'm going to jump on 2 other things that were mentioned. One was the uniforms. How do the people that are the civilians, do they get their uniforms paid for also, or I get a clothing allowance or some type of something?
Correct, yeah, essentially the way uniforms are in the record, we know uniform.
And the ones that don't, do they get a clothing allowance?
Well, I am not sure about that, but I can find out.
Everyone gets a clothing.
Everyone gets a clothing.
Thank you.
Comments is actually part of that line item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the other thing is, I noticed that the academies, we were gonna do the 2 academies, but it seems like the academies are split into 2 different calendar, years. Why is that? Is there a reason why we're paying them different or they're coming in differently? So it's like they're getting paid half here or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? Because I noticed that they don't graduate at the same time, you know, in the same typical year they did. Oh, somebody has to answer.
The current one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So the current academy will be graduating before,
Mhm.
well, actually, this fiscal year, right?
Well, so
It's
it
within-
started, yeah, it started.
So it's starting this time, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they have how long is the,
So it's, 5 months or so.
certainly, so depending on when recruitment begins, when they can select all the candidates, get people in, it kind of phases the timing of when the salaries hit the budget and how that all gets tracked. So for next fiscal year, they're planning on doing a recruitment that follows the same path as this current class, which would
Okay.
have an estimated September of 2025, certain, date that they come on.
So we're gonna make sure that they're within that same yearly budget thing.
Yeah, so when we built the budget, we have some assumptions into it, it's a plan, right? So, the current plan the Colonel has is that, they will begin recruitment for the next academy as soon as this budget passes. They will have those recruits start along the same timeline that they did now, which would have a September of 2026 graduation date, meaning that in fiscal 2025, we're only funding a portion of the training for these officers. Or this class.
Okay, and I think someone did talk about the overtime, and the callback, but, is the city due for any reimbursement for overtime from grants or state reimbursement because of the Washington, bridge? And if so, how much?
To the deputy commissioner, she handles the building through her
I'm
office.
sorry,
It's not, it's a perfectly reasonable question, but this is where it's gonna get reported.
So to date, the department has billed out $160,000 and have been reimbursed $160,000.
Okay.
For the weight enforcement, in accordance with the new ordinance, there's a billing that needs to take place of a little over $70,000. I'm just waiting for the lieutenant to provide me some additional information on what vehicles were used. And then I'll be able to bill right after that. We also have projections, right now, every day the Marine unit is out there with 2 boats.
Okay.
It's anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 a day, I'm sorry, a week out there for the 5 days.
Okay.
We get reimbursement.
And yes, for that reimbursed.
Okay.
Yeah, just follow up on that. So what is what is our overtime projected to be, and how much of that is going to be reimbursed?
So there's a separate line item, Madam Chair, in the budget for the Washington Bridge.
Okay.
And the way we have it set up in the system is move right in there directly. The details don't show up there though for the Marine, but the details fall under a different account.
Can you direct us to that, where that is in the budget? I'm sorry.
The police detail revenue or
Washington Bridge.
If you look, Crystal, do they have the trend expenditures for her, some company for the Washington Bridge? I don't think so. I think it's it all in
It
one.
does, it's all around this report, but we can run you a special report, so. In our accounting software, we create what's called a sub account, which means we add a couple digits after the overtime account. So that we can track and record these sorts of things, but it's not presented in the budget documents because it's just rolled into the one line. But we can get you a report based on that accounting of what's been charged so far and what we anticipate to come in.
I think all the rest of my questions.
So just to follow up again on the callback. So we see a 20% increase, is that right, between fiscal year 24 and 25? Or is that a decrease? That's a decrease? Decrease, all right, it's a decrease. Why is that?
It's because of the academy that's graduating. So I'll let the Colonel speak a little bit more about how that impacts the staff.
The academy, the new officers will be able to have obviously more officers to be able to deploy the certain situation. The other thing is under the contract, the minimum mandate has changed. And so in the past, we were mandated to come out with 27 officers. The union had agreed on how we're gonna lower that. That 28 is gonna help us not to hold people over in the morning or pull people back to meet that minimum man that we used to have to do. So we're hoping that could be improvement on that.
Okay, and my question is, I'm just gonna interrupt you for a minute, parking enforcement.
Sorry?
Parking enforcement,
Yes,
how many do you have on the street?
so we have, 23. Yeah, 23 on the street, and we have 2 vacancies.
And you have what?
So 2 vacancies.
2 vacancies, so can you tell me how they're assigned and,
There's 18 of them, yeah, 18 of them are deployed off the city during the daytime, and then at night, we have the others, which were pretty much, all over you and down there.
What's that? Yes, 4 vacancies.
4 vacancies we have at those 2, so. The 18 is during the day, and then the rest of them are at night. We'll break them down to the 9 different areas of the city. And some that's outside, for example, for night, overnight. But in the daytime, they all spread out inside every district has one.
every district? Okay, so they're assigned this to different, a certain number to every district, is that how it is? Maybe we should swear you in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Not that you're gonna not tell us the truth, but I'd rather have you sworn in if that's okay.
Please raise your hand. You swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And please state your name for the.
Okay. Deputy
Yeah, you're assigned geographically, you obviously you're getting kind of certain areas from assignment. They will cross over if there's a need for them. To get some areas, that's how it is.
Okay,
That was the question.
well, it is, because we have a lot of complaints, a lot of complaints about parking enforcement, and honestly. And they all have cars, correct? Or, so how many are on foot, and how many have cars?
Yeah, I think there are 6 cars. The rest will drop off in different areas of the city and they're bringing on foot and then they pick up.
Oh, okay, so that may be a problem. So they're dropped off in what areas?
Well, they'll get sent up to, near hospital. We're up downtown, they remain on foot a lot down there. But wherever they get dropped off in the city, where there's a lot of traffic enforcement to be done for parking, William Square, Adams Avenue, North Street, and very near the hospitals.
And are you receiving any 311 calls on parking enforcement? Oh, boy. I'm just saying, I think we have a communication.
Is the complaint, Madam Chair, as far as like they're not tagging enough or?
They're not tagging.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
overall citywide, I have to say, this has
That's
been
something we can definitely address and
a
figure out.
constant
Yes.
issue. And so the fact that we don't have many, I mean, people aren't getting tagged, period. I mean, I know we had some, but it seems to be parking, let me just say this. Parking is becoming an increasingly difficult problem for every single council person. So people are looking to have the parking enforcement tagging these cars, because it's the only way we're gonna deter people from parking where they shouldn't be parking without residential permits, without. And so I just, I can't stress enough the fact that we are at a crisis point. It's only gonna get worse, because we're trying to increase our housing density, so the parking issues are being, and we're not requiring parking when we develop, and so it's just gonna become an increasingly difficult problem, and we receive a ton of complaints. The fact that I'm sure they're coming in through 311, the fact that it's not reaching the parking enforcement is upsetting. Can you add to that? I'd like to know who is.
We'll address that. There's no doubt that we're looking into that. I mean, if that's the case, that's their job, so it should be time we'll figure that out.
Okay. Does anyone else want to talk about her? Can I talk about? Oh, my gosh. Oh, boy. All right.
Just as a quick add-on, like, that I hear about this a lot, mostly from a traffic safety perspective, that people are illegally parking in crosswalks and like not respecting the minimum. And part of this, I think, is like, we're not, painting the curbs and stuff enough, and that's DPW, and that's another issue, but from the traffic safety issue, people park really close to the curbs, and it's like, when people are crossing the street as pedestrians or on bikes, it's when that. And then I get a lot of just like complaints about that kind of thing, the crosswalks, people parking up on the sidewalks, and making that people can't get by, and stuff like that comes up pretty frequently. So just to corroborate, that's one of the biggest things I hear, but from a safety perspective, not like, I want to park where I want to park, it's like I almost died because there was like a guy at the crosswalk and I couldn't see. Yeah, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I think the biggest issue here, though, when it comes to parking, because I think enforcement is so difficult at times. Because I've had neighbors reach out with concerns, and then I reach out to what's his name, St. Lucas. He's always responsive, but then what happens is they go tag the two cars. They tag the whole street, so then we start hearing from the rest of the street, and it's such a wonky thing. And I think the underlying issue that is that if we don't address it, we're always gonna have parking related concerns questioned, is how parking is administered in the city. How we do residential permit parking, permit issuance, and that nature. I think that's where we really need to kind of redo the whole way we do parking permits as a city, is my opinion.
But we need enforcement. So, yes, Councilor Peterson.
Hi, how are you? So with regards, I have other questions, but I'll take the parking right now. Specifically in areas where there are schools and parks, it's become a major concern. One of the things that I'm finding, especially when it gets nicer, is that the number of calls that are coming in are exactly what Councilor Anderwatt said, was that they're parking too close to the corner, or perhaps covering a crosswalk because people can't see. I'm extremely concerned about kids using the crosswalk. Traffic calming measures are a whole separate conversation, but when we're talking about the parking enforcement, nobody's listening to the signs that are there. So I don't know if it's something where a collaboration between public safety and DPW can come up with some different ideas to be able to help us mitigate some of this, because as Chairwoman Anthony said, the car situation is becoming increasingly difficult in all of our areas. Unfortunately, we don't have a reprieve anymore. Especially in my area where it used to be, we would get a reprieve because the college students were gone. Many of them are staying, and we still have a continued issue along all of the side streets as well as the main streets. So more of a recommendation has been in an effort to try and figure out how to combat some of this, because we do have a continued problem.
Yes. I'm gonna come back to you because you have more questions. This is about parking right now. Councilor Vargas?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Is about what?
Okay.
I will talk about what. Thank you very much, Chief, for being here and requesting. The issue is, these 23 officers, they don't carry a gun. These are civilians. The 23 people that they go on to park. So he's right, but they for during the daytime. But how many people do you have at nighttime doing these parking enforcement?
Please.
We have people working third shift as well, so we got
Yeah.
to engage yourself in that. But they're not walking, they're in cars. So they use
Yeah, at night they drive around the cars.
Is any way that you can get help by your patrol officers?
Oh, yeah, they do, yeah.
And to help these 23 officers to see if they see something to do something. But I see them I don't have anything against the police department. I love the police department. So they're the only people who see it. But I see them going by, see that them car parked on the sidewalk, and they don't pull over, they don't even stop, they don't write even attention notice. So it's a miscommunication between your lieutenant to the patrol officer. If you see something, please act. Do something. If you see a speeding car try to pull over, say, hey, come on, this is a residential, do not speed. You know, and then the officer will start interacting with the community. So I got pulled over by police officer, he said not to do it, and he let him go. By the police officer pull him the second time, walk him with a ticket, he won't do it again. And we need a lot of help between the patrol and this department, the parking enforcement, because we don't have enough people at night time. Can I do the last question?
Yes, please.
How the parking enforcement knows such car has a permit to be overnight parking? To have overnight parking permit? They read the plate.
Yeah. Police officers don't have that technology, we have parking enforcement have it anywhere.
They carry a computer in the car or they, or by the little machine?
Details and they punch the plate in and out and let them know whether or not this is parking permit for that. That's it.
Because I can get a complaint that the parking for the century only time the same car every night, the same car every night, and more cars are parking the same car and doesn't get charged.
Yes, for that, but I don't know the specific situation, but they may have permits and that's why they did that.
And then I will have to talk to you more about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you for your leadership, Chief and Chief for all they can do. This is really the parking management, one separate question, after that.
Okay,
We'll be very
go
quick.
ahead.
We'll be very quick.
All right.
So the systems aren't communicating with each other, is that right? Is there a vendor that we were gonna work with to help those systems communicate with each other? I know the systems that are, so I know the parking enforcement folks have access to a system that patrol officers don't have access to.
So the thing what Commander is referring to is when it comes to permit, they have a digital device that they can actually display and it will tell them that the person has a permit, so they have that. And when it comes to overnight parking, that's their job. Officers will also tag, but usually it's the parking enforcement that do that also, and they have the equipment to do so.
But the patrol officers don't have that.
They don't have that digital device, not with the fleet, no.
So is that something that, you know, we could look into? I feel like there were conversations about potentially integrating the systems, but.
I guess the parking enforcement, that's their job, and go through the city, giving the tag and they enforce, and we ensure that our last chief commander, make sure that we're tagging at night, so it's their job, unless they're out, the other person, the other parking enforcement will pick up that location. But if we need the office to tag at night, so that we'll figure out a way, however to figure out in that area. I mean, I'll give you an example, we get complaints in these sites sometimes for certain fees. And I'll pull the LIC and make sure they're tagging, and they go out there and tag, and we use the parking enforcement. That tags with the device.
And then the final question is, you know, this number of 500 has been mentioned, and I know Chief Esserman has some great success, particularly with foot patrols and community policing. What would getting to that 500 number, or close to that 500 number, enable us to do when it comes to more foot patrols, specifically in the neighborhoods?
Yeah, I think with the more resources, obviously you can have those lectures, and I always call them lectures. People on foot is a luxury, as an answer both, I'm giving an example between April, I mean, every month of the year, we're handling over 8,000 calls a month. And that's 30 car posts in the city, and so. Yes, that 500 number will allow us to have those lectures, if a district commander has an increase in personnel in their area. And something comes up that they need an officer to walk, like say, Bay Street or Wall Street, or they can utilize that resource. And that's something that we can plan, strategically, as far as we have enough to cover the post, and the extra ones, we can assign to walk a certain area, maybe the first 3 hours or an hour during the shift, but we're not even there yet, that makes it really good to know before we even think of that.
Thank you.
Counselor Peterson, no question.
I do. The first is with regards to noise violations. Oftentimes when we've had to call, or neighbors have had to call for noise situations in the neighborhood, they've when we follow up, or I follow up, one of the things that we've been told, or I've been told, is that There aren't really all the officers that carry the noise decibel reader. It's not very many, so, and also people don't know how to utilize them or are not trained to use them. I just wanted to kind of find out if that is actually something that's pretty accurate, because one of the things that we often get, in a college, predominantly in the area where there's predominant students, we get a lot of noise issues. So just kind of wanted to follow up on that.
Yes, I know your district commander is hands-on.
Yeah, he is,
You
very much.
a lot, so that's something that I'll discuss with him, but at the end of the day, if he's not allowed in the obvious issue with summons. Obviously, the meter is the best way to have it, and sometimes they have it at their disposal or at their hand, but if they don't, there's a rule, the super composed, that if you hear it that far, you should be able to issue a summons. So if there's a specific location, let us know, and then we'll figure that out.
And this isn't just noise late at night, it's actually the amount that decibel, how high the decibel is even during the day when there's some construction happening. What it's doing is that in a specific area that I'm thinking about is way above the 65 decibel reader, I believe, I think that's what it is. And it becomes an issue of concern with housing projections. So, that's one of the things. My second question, is specifically regarding your community engagement bureau.
Yes.
I wanted to understand a little bit now that, a couple of years have gone by, I wanted to kind of find out how that's working out. And I see that there's two people, assigned, but I know there's officers assigned there as well, just from your board chart. If you could give me some feedback, I find that engagement, that unit or that department is very important and very key. As we continue navigating some of the things that are happening with our youth. And the unfortunate events that are continuing to happen every day, I just wanted to get some reinforcement on the support that we can provide to that particular part.
Definitely, so I can speak about last year, 2023 community engagement, and we're involved in about 30% of activities that are actually initiated by the city council. The community meetings that they also participated and organized and helped out the district commanders about 70% of that throughout the year. 11% of community events, police department events, about 3%, that means Halloween at the police station and chocolate cup. The schools, 15% of their activity also that they organize. Faith-based with different churches and different religious groups in the city, 2%. City initiatives, about 12%. Cultural events, about 4%, and workshops, that they did also about 2%. And it all came from the community engagement during throughout the year of 2023. So it's very active, but I think it's a good link for the department and the community, and also assisting with creating events, but also promoting some of the good work that the men and women of the police department does. One of the biggest things that we are pushing is to ensure that not just a gun grab is valuable. We're mentoring a kid, we go into a school, or we participate in the initiative, also being recognized for that, and so that's important. And that will come to the community engagement.
Okay, yeah, all right. Do you have to follow up on that? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, please, Councilor Graves.
I just want to follow up on that. They do a lot in our community, from the holidays with the turkey drives and the, toys and all those other things. I think Mike and Tina both are very, very hands-on, and the community loves them, and they come to all our events. So they are well-known in the community, and they do, while they're there, they do have, conversations with people to find out what's going on and what and how they can assist. So I agree with Councilwoman Peterson. They are a great asset for you guys. I think I have nothing but high praises for both of them.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah.
I won't forget you, but Councilor Vanderbilt.
And these are, thank you, sorry for me, but, partly because, I forgot that Councilman, Royas couldn't be here tonight and had sent me a few questions, and we wanted to make sure that. He wants to know, how many officers patrol the streets, in each district on a typical night?
So we have 30 car posts throughout the city, 30 throughout the city. But that's, again, that's just a patrol officer assigned to an area of the city. That's their responsibility to answer all the posts. But on top of that, you have detectives, narcotics, community response team. So you always have extra officers around, they're specialized units, but they're also around about 30 car posts throughout the city, every day.
Okay.
I'm sorry, all three shifts, yeah.
All three
Days,
shifts.
nights.
Okay. How many unsolved murders are there in Providence right now?
So we had 14 homicides last year. This year, currently,
Unsolved murders in Providence.
so I think I can give you a total for last year, we, out of the 14, we solved 12.
Okay.
This year we had one, and we made an apprehension as well, so far we guys.
Keep it at that.
Yeah, not, yeah.
And then who wants to, can counselors receive weekly or monthly crime reports for our neighborhood, so we know what's happening?
Okay.
Can counselors receive weekly or monthly crime reports for their neighborhood, so they know what's happening?
So another conversation happened in the crime watch meeting the other day that Commander and I spoke about.
Okay,
And so that's something that we definitely work with the different crime groups throughout the city together, and that's something, believe it or not, I started when I was a district lieutenant, and I think that's what they came about, so.
oh, right.
And it was just an update on some things and some issues,
Mhm.
concerns, so.
Cool. And then the last one is, what is the ratio of officers to population compared to police departments of similar sized cities? So like, do we have more officers per capita than comparable cities, or do we have fewer? Like, what is the
It's a
data?
great question. So we're one of 300 departments in the nation. There's 18,000 police departments throughout the nation. We're one of 300, capital city. And so I looked at those numbers, like, we're the second largest next to Boston. So everybody else, like Worcester, those populations, but they have almost the same amount of number of officers as us. But I'll be honest with you, I would like to do some research on that, because I know population keeps increasing. When I first came on the job, we're 170,000 in the city of Providence. We're almost close to 190,000 people in the city, right?
Yeah.
If I get that right. And so it keeps increasing, and so when the city increases, needs increase, and so the police department should increase.
That's it.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yeah, I have one last question. I just want to add a comment. I've tried to do that research and it's almost impossible to really compare city by city, just because so many departments classified as civilians and officers uniform. But I think that's something we should definitely keep looking into to make the best possible decisions going forward. My last question, Chief, is there any updates or any formal agreements with state police in the city of Providence?
No, so we have mutual aids, policies in place, and different municipalities will need assistance. Cranston will call for assistance. We'll go over with the state police. I have a great relationship with the command staff. And so if you're thinking about strategically, like to work with the state police on specific issues, we're always open. We haven't had the need to do that. I know in the past, we had a neighborhood response team that we worked together with the state police at that time. We haven't had a need, but if there was, I have a great relationship with the state police and haven't had a need to do that. So.
Yeah, no, I asked a question, because I get, a lot of calls and messages on certain parts of the city that tend to be over policed by state police. And, at least in my neighborhood, my neighbors have nothing but positive things to say about the Providence Police Department. But those aren't always the same when it comes to state police, and it's hard for us as city councilors to even reach out to anyone in the state police to follow up on an incident or report. And I know I've asked you of this, or we talked a little bit in the past, and I think it's important to have a understanding of what state police's role is in the capital city. Obviously, we don't want to be micromanaging or completely, every flow incident that they're doing in the city. But especially around certain parts of, Hartford, Manton, I see them from time to time. And, it does raise sometimes questions and concerns. So I think having a better understanding, and I've heard directly from police officers that state police comes here to the city to fish. Young rookies get bored on the highway and almost are looking for any possible crime, which I think sometimes is counterproductive and kind of adds sometimes complications with Providence residents and law enforcement that I think are things we could work through together.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can be a link, and like I said, I have good relationships with the state police, the command staff. If there's any concerns from the community, we can definitely have a sit down conversation with the firm who's definitely understanding about community policing, so we can figure that out.
Yeah, just like one quick example, I know, Providence Police, I don't think tent enforcement is the biggest priority for you guys, but I've had probably 5 people reach out in the past couple months that's the reason state police has pulled them over. So I think it's just kind of a difference in policies. I think we should try to be somewhat in the same boat when it comes to those types of actions.
Okay, quickly?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So we're gonna talk about numbers. That's it. But 43%, Latinos that we have in the, close to 48% Latinos in the state of Providence. What percentage do you have in your police department of the minority community working for you right now? You know the number.
Yeah, so we're, today I saw so many numbers, I don't even think I remember my date of birth, but, yeah, we're up close to 40, we're high, we're in the 40s, 13% women. We have, our officers speak, there's about 191 officers speak another language, in the departments, we're very diverse, more than all of us when I came on the job in 1994, I was one of 2 minorities, there's a lot more. Women than us.
Great. And, how many units do you have, like talking about automobiles, cars? How many cars do you have in total in your department?
So we got 100,
Including even the bikes,
165 on mark and 139 marked units.
so almost 300.
Yeah, but just keep in mind that on the mark, we still got cars in the fleet that are Pontiacs.
Your bus.
Pontiac company doesn't even exist anymore. And so yes, it always no fleet.
And how many, can I,
Yes, yes, quickly.
how many EV cars we trying to buy from now on, because everybody's going crazy with electricity, right? So how many EV cars you trying to order for the next, order you plan to do?
I know we utilize some EV cars for the traffic division, for the police department, it's something that we really have to be something as well. This cars run 24 hours a day, and we can't have a car park while it's being charged. It's just not.
What about hybrid?
But,
Hybrid.
yeah, it's something to look into, I just never really give it a thought, because like I said, these cars run 24/7,
Hybrid?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not-
The good news is we're gonna be talking master lease at some point, and maybe we can dig in to some of these numbers, but are you finished?
One more thing, I don't know, the fee you have, which towing company pick up these cars when the car broke down?
So we actually had a meeting recently with the communication department, there's awards and bids that were placed, and we wanna make sure that when the cars get picked up, that the right company to get the award are picking up the vehicles. I can't list each name there, but that's something that we talked about to make sure that they're utilizing the right company when that is when they're picking up the car.
I would like, I would like to see different companies picking up cars and give the break or give the opportunity to small fish to eat too. To pick up a city car and send and pay him and help this small business that have 2 towing truck, 2, 3, 4. But don't forget that when the first company, whatever we have now, when they first start, they might start with a mule, picking up mules, right? Or they might start with a 1 car or 1 towing truck. So it would be great to give the opportunity to a new people coming up, trying to run a small business in the city of Providence. So our tax money will go around to the same people. Like when you get a piece of bread, you give a piece to everyone, so everybody can eat at the same time.
Yeah, just think that that's the process, right?
Public property.
It's that.
Yeah.
Councilman, it sounds like you're looking for some more on how we procure things, particularly towing. So that would be done through the Department of Public Property, specifically the purchasing department. The police department participates in those bid process, but they don't set the rules and regulations on how we procure things.
I've been in the council for 2 years and I haven't seen nothing done. I've been fighting with these same situation to give the opportunity to a small businesses, to the minority community, and nobody wants to do nothing. They just want to go with the big guy, the big fish, and something's going on, and something fish is going on. So if you help me out with these questions, I'll be glad to do that. Thank you.
We'll work on that. I think that's a good question. All right. Madam Auditor.
One question that I would like answered. Just the base salary, says it's mostly finance. the base salaries are up over 11%, and the contractual increases that have not yet been approved and the union pieces that have been approved are not that high.
It's 2 years, so it's.
So the retro of the first year.
So it's, when you compound 4.25 and 4.25, it's like 8.65%.
Okay, so that is in
That is in
there,
this.
and it's all, there's nothing in the 24 budget for their contract.
Well, the 24 budget will need to pay
Correct.
the retro, assuming it's approved in fiscal 2024. We would need to bring the salaries up to par and pay the retro in fiscal 24. However, the amount for fiscal 25 will need to go up by the current salary by 8.48% because
Got it.
that's how
Okay.
compounding
Got it.
works.
Got it. Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna end and say thank you. to everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, we really appreciate all your effort. I am going to give a shout out to Bill Brown. Lieutenant on the side, who's done an excellent job, I have to say. So I am very, very grateful for all of your work and,
Thank you. I'll take the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
As mentioned, the commander, we used to say, we said first, make sure it's.
Oh, really? Next year. Just say, I'm sorry.
Well, they got press powers and stuff.
Let's swear in the chief. Thank you.
Eric Silver, Chief of Police.
Okay. Thank you, and we are now retired, so we probably will run out of lots of questions, so, see, we're talking like flies. So anyway, we.
Yeah, Taylor's going, so.
We will start with,
Madam Chair, you want to vote the?
Oh, yes, all right, yes, we're gonna mark the exhibit, the fire department exhibit. We're gonna mark separately the word cards.
But they are actually in here, but they're a little bit of a bigger version.
Yeah, they're.
We're gonna mark this, 17. Okay, Sam, motion for someone. Second, all right, motion made by Counselor Gray, seconded by Counselor Angelou, all in favor? All opposed. Wonderful, so, Director. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I do have 2 additional exhibits that haven't been marked.
Oh, we do need those, so while we're receiving the report, we'll distribute those, and then I'll mark them, thank you.
Last up tonight, we have the fire department. Revenue is budgeted at $7,592,000 for fiscal 25. This is an increase of $6,600,000, and this increase is due to moving the fire detail and rescue run revenue out of the non-departmental budget to the fire department to better reflect the department's revenue sources. Total salaries for fiscal 25 is a proposed $49,942,020, an increase of $3,896,802. And the department has proposed the following organizational changes. Found an assistant chief of the fire department at $167,853. Defund the fire captain EMS at a savings of $95,614. Fund a captain of emergency medical service, $96,914. Defund the deputy assistant fire chief at a savings of $128,952. Fund the chief of emergency medical services at a cost of $147,960. Fund the chief of training and professional development, $112,951. Fund the confidential assistant at $76,700. And fund 10 fire trainees at the cost of $68,900. Total net savings $446,745. And total budgeted benefits for fiscal 25 are $47,064,511, an increase of $4,310,393. Moving on to services, total proposed budget for services for fiscal 25 is $61,530, an increase of $7,120. This increase is due to additional costs associated with promotional trams, dues and subscriptions, and postage. And you'll see a reduction in the pest control budget. Total proposed budget for supplies is $2,806,237, a decrease of $1,795. And the decrease is primarily due to reductions in uniforms and hasn't been offset by increases in maintenance for EKG monitoring devices and training associated with cadet and CTE programming. I mean, there is no capital budget in this department.
Okay. Thank you. So, Keith, nice to see you. Thank you for coming to see us. Would you like to give us a few words on the department?
Sure. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee, councilors. This budget serves to address some significant issues that are long-term. I think you've all heard me mention in the past that we didn't have a chief provided for 10 years. But what came with that is a kind of a lack of investment in our policies, our procedures, really the way we deploy our resources and respond to emergencies. And so over this last year, with the support of the council and the mayor's office with this current budget, we really embrace technology and really reevaluating how we respond to emergencies to make sure that we're doing it efficiently. I'll speak to it after, but one of the things is the street boxes. And then really for every call for service, meant the firefighters put their lights and siren on and drove like their house is on fire, irrespective of what you called for. And so that was really a wholesale change for us. Culturally, it was very difficult, and organizationally, it was very challenging, but we accomplished it. We've seen a dramatic reduction in our city involved with vehicle accidents, and made sure that now we have the proper resources responding to those calls. What this budget does do is try to build a sustainable path, recognizing that public safety is a very large part of the annual operating budget, and that our increase this year is larger than normal. That investment is aimed at trying to reduce the investments that are going to be necessary in future years. Predominantly, that's going to be resolved or dealt with through hiring new firefighters. The difference, the stark difference between us and the police department, our hiring is solely based on the displacement of overtime. So as an example, we have an academy starting May 28th, that's going to graduate July 9th. That's 40 firefighters. Those 40 firefighters, while increasing the salary line item, are going to result in a $4 million reduction in overtime costs. Because it's our minimum staff and this will drive our costs. We have an 80-person requirement on all time, 24/7, 365, and even staff firefighters and rescues. And right now we have 376 employees. That's 376 sworn firefighters before anyone takes a vacation day, anyone is sick or injured. And while we've managed that to the best levels in a long time, as an example, since 2017, we haven't seen a lower injury level, sickness level, FMLA request level than we are right now. Year over year, the last 2 years, we've reduced those paid leave by 10,000 hours per year. So we kind of pushed down in terms of management and really kind of ensure that the personnel that we do have are being used efficiently, but we need more personnel. And that is why you see our overtime costs so high. As an example, in the current fiscal year, we had 8.4 million, and we're still projected to spend about 11.2. The reason for that is we hired 32 firefighters last July. If you look at our table of organization and benefits on firefighters last year, we're almost at the exact same level now. So we hired 32, but never got ahead of anything in terms of attrition. Again, that's because for the last 10 years, absent a fire chief, we haven't had a structured command staff. We haven't had a systematic policy on making sure we hire consistently to try to combat those problems. So since 2018, we've lost 104 firefighters. And we've only hired one time, and that was last year, at 32 firefighters. And so that is our shortfall of 70 firefighters and what is driving that overwhelming overtime costs. To move aside from the staffing big for a moment, and I want to talk about the CTE, that program and the other methods in which we're trying to hire to make sure it's our city youth and it's a diverse workforce that we hire. We also are looking to shift kind of the organizational structure of the administrative staff of the fire department. Absent the chief, during that time, the commissioner served as chief department and was supported by a confidential assistant that did the work that you would find typically in the office, where non-union administrative assistant supported the department directly. And if you look at the city as a whole, almost every size of the department in the city has a confidential assistant that supports the director. The fire department does not. And that is because, again, during the last 10 years, the commissioner had one. And as the chief, they service those issues. Now we have a fire chief, although the support structure around it doesn't exist. The gentleman I have behind me is the entirety of our command staff. So to put it in a comparative sense in terms of the police department or other fire departments around us, the command staff of the police department is a membership of 7. So while our fire department is the same size in terms of population, we have only 5 members. In addition, with one of the sheets I passed out is a small table with some highlights. If you look at the 2002 Providence Rhode Island Fire Department, there's a total of 10 non-union management command staff that ran the fire department. Now we're at 5, so it's really reduced in half since 2012. All those departments in between us, self-explanatory, but they all have additional command staff. And I'll get into the duties and responsibilities of them, but I just want to give you an overall understanding that we're doing a lot with a very small amount of people compared to the other public safety departments in our city, but also the surrounding departments around us. And so those asks are a confidential assistant that will support the office of the chief of department, but more specifically, the human resource functions, media requests, 301 requests, really all the personnel issues that you would believe exist in the human resources department, because public safety is not supported directly by human resources. By the charter, just like the elected councilors are, we are exempt from the personnel system. So FMLA requests, leave requests, discipline grievances, arbitrations are all heard and vetted through myself. And so typically there's been a confidential assistant to maintain those records, research those records as grievances, as arbitrations, as things filed. We do have 2 administrative assistants, but they're really a misnomer in terms of they are the 2 administrative assistants for the entire department. They service all 7 bureaus and divisions, every fire truck or fire station that needs new ink for their printer, new paper, new pens, pencils. Overhead door on the fire station breaks, the fire truck can't get out. A public property issue, that all goes to those 2 individuals to service all 400. So this confidential assistant would take a book of work that was traditionally done by a non-union confidential assistant that quite frankly doesn't fall into anyone's wheelhouse now. It's just kind of bifurcated, like, so I will pick up that ball that day and then someone else with the next day as kind of we can get it done. And it really isn't an efficient way to run a fire department. Moving past the confidential assistant, the next added position or asked for position is assistant chief of department. So effectively number 2 within the fire department. There's no second command within the fire department. After myself, it kind of becomes all co-equals and then subordinates after that. This would give me an extra ability for day-to-day operational management, but also an impact management in terms of, as an example, when we're hiring, while we're hiring, we can't shut down the rest of the fire department. And so last year we hired 32 firefighters. Believe it or not, last year was the first time we ever interviewed to become a Providence firefighter. In the history of Providence Fire Department, we've never even met a person before we hired them, which is just wildly absurd. We had to shut down the headquarters for 2 weeks and just not do other things because we don't have a full command staff to lend those folks to do those jobs. And so while it's a need for day-to-day management and also to kind of when we're doing hiring or right now as we're revamping our dispatch procedures on emergency response, we need that bandwidth. And again, comparative to other departments, we are woefully understaffed. In addition to that, fire departments as a whole really haven't progressed into the new age of things. And I think you probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that Providence Fire Department really operates in the 1990s style of operations, which is fine for fire, right? Fires are hot, you put water on them, they go out. But we do a lot more than fires now. Dominantly emergency medical services, and quite frankly, we are an emergency medical service department that sometimes goes to fires. But organizationally, culturally, we haven't switched to that kind of method. And so the federal government is kind of forcing it on everybody at this point. And so in January of 2026, our reporting system right now is called the National Fire Incident Reporting System. It's going to change to the National Emergency Response Information Systems. It's require a whole new vetting and reporting structure that we are required to, similar to the police department, to give our information and make sure our reports are completed and submitted to the federal government to review. As an example, we don't what we call basic life support calls, which are medical needs, but they don't rise to advanced life support level. We do 10,000 of those calls a year. We don't capture a single one in our national fire incident reports. It dramatically impacts our ability to get grants, and really identify what we do in terms of calls. Now, we do capture those calls in terms of the patient care report, so if you needed it for a liability issue or insurance claim afterwards, you as an individual patient can get that information, but the 500 as a whole can instantly capture that information. In addition to that, OSHA is revamping what they call their fire brigade standard. The fire brigade standard hasn't been touched in 40 years. So right now, they're going to their public review comment period. It's going to end at the end of June. That's going to require a whole litany of new standards and regulations that fire departments are required to adhere to. While Rhode Island is not an OSHA state plan, when that industry standard becomes approved, it becomes the benchmark for civil liability for everything that, hey, what the EPA is doing. Because in this country, there are 28 OSHA state plans, even though Rhode Island hasn't adopted it for all municipal governments, it would still be what would be held to. And so without these added positions, particularly the assistant chief department, and an ability to kind of structure those reportings and structure all of that to make sure we're doing the training qualifications required, we need these added positions because the bandwidth isn't there with the small staff that we have now. To move past the assistant chief of department, to talk about the EMS chief, while we do currently have an EMS chief, which is Chief Kegney behind me, he serves the rank of deputy assistant chief. Why this is problematic is because the deputy assistant chief rank within the rest of the fire department is a shift commander. They are in charge of the 88 firefighter EMTs that are on each and every shift. Every firefighter is an EMT, 98% are EMT cardiacs, advanced life support certified. And so even if it's a fire truck pulling up to your house, they have all 40 medications, EKG machines, you name it. The only thing they don't have is a stretcher to drive to the hospital. And so our requirements for training and education are much higher than they ever were before. In addition to that, we've added new services with EMS, with the mobile health unit that pairs one of our folks with a clinician that runs 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. each day, so that we can help those in need with a mental health crisis that doesn't necessarily need an ER, but needs some sort of medical assistance. And then also the EMS bike detail that tries to tend to people's first aid needs and Narcan accessibility without having to transport to the hospital and put further demand on the pre-hospital system. With these increases, the EMS chief's role is even more important. Not only is there more work to be done, and our reporting has increased, and by that has brought in new revenue on the order of $300,000 in this new fiscal year of increased revenue. There's also an organizational and cultural need show within the fire department that we should be embracing EMS. And so our current EMS chief is the equal rank of its subordinates, the supervisors, and also below the rank of the rest of the fire personnel that live within my command staff. I know that's not as tangible as some of the other actual items we need to accomplish. It just makes no sense. I mean, 47,000 calls a year, 35,000 of them are EMS calls, and he's lower ranked than everybody else. And so I recognize that that's a large raise in pay for one individual. It's the rank structure that we're trying to really change and make sure that we're honing in on what the fire department is required and needed for its constituents. And so that's the request for the EMS chief. The last additional FD ask is the chief of training. And so currently we have a captain of training and then 3 training instructors. So we have 4 personnel dedicated to training, continuing education, and recertification for the 400 firefighters. The problem with that is we've now added new programs with a CTE program at PTSD that we graduate on the order of 10 Providence public school graduates from Central High School to hopefully get them on the job as firefighters. In addition to that, we're building out in this budget a cadet program. What that cadet program would do is capture those CTE graduates with PTSD and be a bridge program that gets them ready to become Providence firefighters. It's honestly the best thing that we've done in a long time. Like we're getting the jobs, good, well-paid jobs in the city to city. To be able to do that, it's about 390 hours a year of classroom instruction. 5 personnel has to be embedded in the classroom training center. We rely on overtime to do that. It's a costly endeavor. In addition to the CTE and cadet program, we also rely on overtime for our drill masters for our academies.
And so to give you an example, for one academy, for one drill master is $82,000 over the time. So while an FT for teacher training is about $112,000, one academy goes by and it's paid for itself. In addition, 4 people to train 400. I think we can all wrap your heads around it. It's really not enough to do it the appropriate way. We make it work and we rely heavily on overtime to do it, but this budget is trying to structure it so we're not so reliant on overtime to get the basic normal course of our duties completed. With that, I will open questions and questions.
I'm going to mark, your, 2 exhibits. I mean, 2 pages, one is your overtime and FTE, and the other is the community comparison documents. Thank you so much. As exhibit number.
So we're on 18.
18, may I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is made by Councilor Amberlaw, seconded by Councilor Sandberg. So, but we were expecting this because last year we asked for you to take some time, to really look at the reorg, and, I can't thank you enough for how much time you've obviously spent on thinking it through. So, and I do appreciate the big issue, as I recall, last time we met with you, was the overtime.
Right.
And the way the shifts were structured, and that was very much the issue. So I appreciate the fact you've been working on that and have come to us for approval. So with that, I'm gonna open it up. Yes, Councilor Amberlaw.
Thank you, and I was super fast, I know it's late. First was just one, thank you, that was so completely pre-answered, 95% of my questions, I really appreciate apparently you explained all that. And this chart was incredibly helpful to make the point that we were telling. And the only question I have remaining, is, can you talk a little bit about how you're recruiting and training up women to be in the leadership team? Because it seems like that is maybe a gap you have. Oh, sorry, I'm like so quiet today, which is so uncharacteristic to me. Can you talk a little bit about how you're training up and recruiting women in leadership positions? That seems to be a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, frankly. And the saddest part of the whole thing is we're better than most, which makes it even worse. So we have 5.5%, which results in 21 women in the fire department. The highest ranking woman is a captain. Somewhat different in terms of how the police structure their promotions. Ours are 100% based on a test score and then seniority points. It's all kind of codified in the collective bargaining agreement. The only positions that are, I'll say, discretionary in terms of how they're promoted are the 4 behind me. Everything else is locked up in how they're promoted. I think it really comes back down to our recruitment. We don't do a good job of telling the story of what the job is about. And I think a lot of folks don't recognize that you don't have to ride a fire truck. There are many other full-time sworn firefighter positions, EMS, fire prevention, communications, and that's really a large part of why I think cheaper training is necessary. You can't be all the ball guys to try to encourage other people to become firefighters. While I love talking about it, it's just, we need youth and we need folks that look and talk like them and tell them this is a job for you too. And so like I use the example, I've talked to Councilor Sanchez about this a lot in the past. Most of the barriers aren't real. If they're in their heads, because they just don't know that they never talked to a firefighter, they never understood it. And so while we end up with a lot of sons and cousins and sisters and brothers firefighters, it's not nepotism that we're hiring them, brother. It's that they learn at a young age again. And so that's what we're doing with the CEU program. We have the graduation coming in June. We're going to invite all of you, and I hope you come. Because I talk to those kids, like feel like you're walking on water after the fact. And so I think that's what we need to do is we did the lateral academy last year, and we're doing a lot of lateral academy now. That's a band-aid because of our overtime issues. The real way in which we should hire is we should hire open entry level folks to become firefighters, particularly from Providence. It works better in emergency response because they know the neighborhoods, they know the people. it's just a different, I don't say our other fighters don't care, but it's a different level, it's just, it's different, so. What our goal with this chief of training and with our higher practice in the future is to make it sustainable so that every year, or every other year, we're doing small academies that one financially can be absorbed into the budget. But also, it's hard to go into a high school and say, do all this and you can't balance firefighter, but I can tell you we're gonna hire again. Because we hired in 2018 and we didn't hire again until 2023. So how do you tell a graduating high school kid that between now and 7 years, I don't really know.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, is a real big barrier and just a better education. The CTE program has helped out tremendously. We graduated 11 last year, we're gonna graduate 12 this year. This cadet program will see some of those folks actually become firefighters in this next fiscal year. So I think those stories are what we need to get out into the schools and we need to, and really move on. Like if this budget passes as proposed, we'll be opening applications in July for every entry level academy to start the physical academy in July of FY26. And so, you know your constituents, you know your neighbors, and you know their youth that want to be have these jobs. And I think those are the conversations we're gonna have, because I can put an ad up on social media or in the Providence Journal, but it's not how we connect with them.
Yeah.
And particularly women, and I don't have suggestions on how to take that value even further. And it's a fire service struggle in general, and police officers have done much better. And I hate to say this, but maybe we can learn something from them on that. But we definitely recognize it, and that's why we want to invest in the training, because we need someone there that is dedicated to that.
Okay, thank you so much, and
Yeah.
thank you again for your explanation of FTE versus overtime. I really appreciate how like. It's a harder story to tell, and I appreciate that you took the time to like really share that financial story, because it makes it easier to do. So that's my own question.
I just gotta ask a question about fallback.
Mhm.
So, can we talk about that, because I see big numbers, and I see an increase 25, 26.
So it is going up, and part of the issue is the 32 firefighters that we hired last year really made no net increase on our overall FTE count. And so even though the current fiscal year was 8.4 and this one is 8.7, right now we're projected to spend 11.2 in the current fiscal year. So we're gonna be well over our budgeted amount. This 8.7, I'm very confident that we can stay within. Part of the issue is right now, we're spending about $500,000 every 2 weeks in overtime. And 91% of the time, we have at least 19 vacancies to fill each day. And leave isn't the driver, it's the sheer vacancies. And so the problem is our attrition is an average of 15, now it's about an average of 22 a year. So while we're hiring and not hiring fast enough to combat the overtime. Also, this academy doesn't come on until July 19th. So we effectively lose the month of July in terms of overtime. That's another $1 million that was 5 was not to displace it.
So when are we gonna see, so that's fiscal year, we're still increasing in fiscal year 2026, when are we gonna start seeing a decrease?
FY25, it levels off. FY26, we would start to see the fruit of the labor of the hiring.
But we haven't, a projected increase in.
I don't know how the projected increases come out.
I'm wondering if
I think that's just like an automatic calculation.
Yeah, so when the finance department is projecting the fiscal 2026 budget, we don't necessarily go into every single line item and calculate that manually. We apply some kind of across the board increases. And so there was an assumption baked in for 26 that it would go up nominally based on contractual increases for the staff. But we can refine that for final budget if you'd like.
Well, I'm listening to what we're doing here, expecting to see results. But then looking down here and seeing that I'm still heading up. And so I'm just, I understand exactly what you're doing, you need to staff, but I'm hoping to see results. Can we also talk about overtime and overtime training? I'm just not sure what those two.
So
items are.
the callback one is straight up backfilling the 88 required contractual, that's the 87 line item. The overtime that just straight up says overtime, that's civilian overtime. So the repair shop on Dexter Street that fixes all the vehicles actually falls underneath the fire department. And so that's the overtime for the mechanics that work on the city vehicles. And then the overtime training is training overtime for the firefighters. It's not necessarily like for a firefighter to go to training, as an example. In the month of July, it's gonna cost us $57,000 in overtime for the instructors that are at the academy teaching the new recruits. So that's the overtime training line on that in the promotional schools as a lieutenant is one of the lieutenant captain, battalion chief. They come off the trucks and they go to school for a week and that's that over.
And who, and you said it required. Who, I forgot where that requirement.
In the contract, it's collective bargaining agreement requires PD on at all times. That's the staff, the engines, ladders, rescues, and the supervisors on duty.
Okay. All right, yes, Counselor Sanchez.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Before I start, I just want to offer my condolences to the department. I know you guys lost a member recently.
Yeah.
But going off of the minimum staffing, and I don't want to put you in a difficult place, but is that like a pretty good number? Is everyone pretty busy? How? I know we can't really do anything about it, but just out of curiosity, I mean, like.
Obviously, it needs to be negotiated. I think similar to how the organization is set up, I think the staffing is still based on a fire response model and not an emergency medical services model. And so I think perhaps staffing should be shifted in terms of fire versus rescue. But I don't think the number is wrong in terms of overall problem. I think the problem is if we have 88 needed on duty and there's 4 shifts. That's 352 people, 40 days a day off, and I have 376 in my whole department right now. And I have about 25 that are on some sort of a day administrative schedule, most of them live in fire prevention and type inspections. So that's my issue is the overall table organization doesn't support 88. So I'm running a 450 person department with 376. Still getting to 450, but instead of getting to 450 with jobs for city kids, it's overtime. Right. And so I think the 88 number isn't necessarily wrong, like when you mentioned on the police side about comparing us to some of the size communities. I use West Worcester as a benchmark for us, very similarly sized, geographically bigger, but population wise, hazard wise, and we're near identical in terms of staffing size. Tampa, again, different size city, same similar size fire department. When we look at those response models, we do about 47,000 calls per year. When we do departments that do that same amount of response, the staffing structure is very similar. Arguably, although command staff isn't, but the on the boots or on the street response levels seem to be appropriate if we had appropriate staffing.
Thank you. And my next question is to finance. Where do we find money in the budget when we go over budgeted callback time?
I'm sure. So finance monitors the budget daily, weekly, monthly. We submit a budget to actual and projection report to the internal auditor. So when we see a breakage in overtime, like we will look at, well, do we have savings in our class A, like non-sworn staff? And then we'll look for where we can find savings elsewhere. Like in March, we sent out an essential spend memo to all of our departments. So we are looking at every single purchase order that gets put through, determining if it's essential or not, and then approving it or denying it. So we're monitoring and making adjustments throughout the year to make up for that.
Makes sense.
I also mentioned too is we're not solely relying on budget expenses to get our staffing up. We also apply for a safer grant to hire firefighters, similar to the cost grant, although our grants are structured differently. We applied for a fully formed firefighter safer grant that we should hear about for fall as to whether or not we receive it. That pays for 3 years, 100%, and there's no maintenance of effort after the fact. So in 3 years' time, we would lose to attrition more than 44, so we wouldn't have to then, you know, bolster on staffing if not needed. But I just want to make mention that in addition to seeking funds here, we're also looking to find federal money to hire firefighters. If awarded at $60 million, it's a very large grant.
Is that through your office, chief, or is that through the public?
That was in concert, actually, myself and Deputy Commissioner working on that together.
That's my question.
And then my last comment is that I definitely support the position change of well, making the EMS chief permanent. I haven't had any conversations with Chief Kenyon, but I hear nothing but positive things, especially from folks that are sometimes in difficult places and don't have a lot of positive things to say about city officials or whatnot. That's one name that comes up a lot, and I think that's something that we should definitely be supporting as a city. Appreciate that.
I know.
Is that it?
I'm all set.
Any other questions?
Can I just throw one thing in about the street boxes?
Oh, yeah, yes, please.
So-
We have a whole bunch of questions.
He's been waiting.
In terms of response model, we looked at it entirely and holistically to say, this way we're gonna do a business makes sense. And so street boxes was one of them. And so required by law to maintain records for 90 days, we keep them for much longer. We look back 40 months. 40 months, we responded to 3,852 street box activations. So 3,852 times in 40 months, if someone pulled that street box, guess where they all were, right outside the schools, right when they get out of school, all of them. Except for a few here and there, but we audited every single call, and not a single solitary one was an emergency call. No one was present. In fact, in a few where the proximity, where we actually cross-referenced it, on finance, so we helped out a lot with this, and I very much appreciate it. We actually cross-referenced the location of our 911 calls to see the proximity of street boxes. Some of them were so close like this, and they still want to call 911. So no one is utilizing those boxes for emergency response. It was sending out an engine or ladder with full lights and siren to a street box all the time. And just talk about the street boxes. It is a game well system, it's a telegraph. Literally, it is copper wire that taps out a 3-digit code, 512. And then dispatch gets 512. It's on a computer now, but in the same sense, 512 is a corner of Putnam and Amherst. Send the 2 fire trucks. We're going blind in the dark, we have no idea why we're going there. And we get there and there's no one there, and then we return back. And so 3,852 times in the last 40 months just didn't seem like a good use of our resources. Then we also looked at everybody else around us to see what they were doing. The 27 most populous communities in the state, only 4 of them have street boxes. North Providence, North Kingstown, Newport, and Westerly. Cranston, Warren, East Providence, Union, had them and got rid of them. So we're not pioneers in this respect. We're actually kind of late to the game. And looking outside of Rhode Island, I did a lot of Googling, and pretty much everyone's doing the same thing and taking them down because the parts are so hard to come by, because it's literally 1880s technology. It's telegraph wire. And while it's very stable and works fine until it breaks, once it breaks, it's a copper wire on the ground. Good luck, probably. And so it's not gonna, no one's gonna lose their job. It wasn't for that purpose. In fact, we still maintain 1,600 master boxes, which are boxes inside buildings that run on that same system. And so now those folks can concentrate on making sure the occupied buildings have working systems, because those do generate emergency calls and try to take the work away from the areas where it wasn't really bearing fruit.
Thank you.
Can I add to that, Chairwoman? And I would also say, in regards to the concerns about like cyber attacks, I think if we were one day, unfortunately, a victim of a cyber attack, I think street boxes and I think our internal communication systems would be at the front of that attack. So we would be screwed regardless.
Well, the irony is both technology it plugs into the computer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would argue if you ask your constituents what the street box was, they look at you sideways.
Yeah. Okay. Our last question just got that. So, any other questions or comments? I'm just gonna say thank you so much for your service, all of you. Thank you for staying so late. I'm sorry we kept it.
And I
actually stay longer.
I just want to add, there is someone in your crowd that has here.
Yeah.
So.
Second.
Items, thank you, 1 through 5. Motion made by Councilor Gray, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Opposed, and then,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Second. All right, motion made by Councilor Gray, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? Aye.